Roll call of supervisors, please. I believe we are all here, correct? 28 in attendance. Now, before we get too far along, I better make sure I've got the right agenda, correct? Citizen comments. This time we'll open the floor up to citizen comments. Citizens are limited to 5 minutes. You approach a microphone. Please state your name and address for the record. Speak directly into the microphone if you would. And I'd ask if we're going to have several speakers that we be prepared to move to the microphone when each other is complete. Thank you. Go ahead.
Shane Gerber, 24832 74th Street, Salem, Wisconsin. We, the loyal and dedicated members of the Kenosha County Sheriff's Department Detention Division, understand full well that you, as County Board Supervisors, are accountable to the taxpayers of Kenosha County. We understand that you are also fiscally responsible to offer the employees of Kenosha County wage and benefit packages which reflect Kenosha County's commitment to a well-rounded workforce. We hope, given the current state of affairs, that you haven't lost sight of this commitment. Many citizens of Kenosha don't even realize that we exist and think that the jail is staffed by sheriff's deputies. With all due respect to the fine deputies of the Kenosha County Sheriff's Department, many of whom began their careers as correctional officers, we are, without question, the largest group in the Sheriff's Department. With that said, we realize and accept the fact that we are also the most easily forgotten and overlooked members of the Sheriff's Department. Shortly after Sheriff Beth first took office, he made a comment in the Kenosha News giving credit to the American soldiers fighting the war on terrorism. He went on to say that we not only have brave soldiers fighting overseas, we have soldiers fighting here in America, and proudly mentioned the sheriff's deputies, police officers, state patrol, and DNR. Shortly thereafter, when he was questioned about not mentioning correctional officers in the interview, he replied that he was sorry if he hurt our feelings, but he just simply overlooked us. This is what we quietly endure on a daily basis, simply being overlooked and forgotten, as we do the job that many people would never even consider as a career choice. Now, as Governor Walker has declared war on the state workers of Wisconsin, we are thrust into the spotlight with the inevitable task of having to justify why we should retain our level of pay and benefits to individuals that apparently do not recognize exactly how difficult, stressful, and dangerous our jobs have become in today's society. Members of the Kenosha County Board of Supervisors, we are the backbone of Kenosha County Sheriff's Department, and our voices need to be heard. In 2002, the Kenosha County Jail and the Kenosha County Detention Center began housing federal marshal inmates and immigration detainees. That year, we had a grand total of 35. Each year since 2002, that number has increased, as has our workload for housing these inmates. As of July 17, 2011, we are housing 193 immigration detainees and 66 federal marshal inmates. Using those numbers and keeping in mind that those numbers fluctuate on a daily basis at about $70 per inmate, $70 a day per inmate, that calculates to $18,130 a day, or approximately $6 million a year. This is the revenue that we are directly responsible for bringing into this community. What other entity of Kenosha County can boast those kinds of numbers? We are not the usual budget expense. We are a money maker for the county, and we have been for years. Please give credit where credit is due. The general fund is what is mainly due to our steadfast work ethic, but yet reliable handheld radios, which are a necessary piece of equipment for not only the safety of staff but normal jail operations, prove to be less important than the addition of private showers in some of the new offices in the public safety building, or the imported Italian tile adorning the walls of floors of said building. We are being bombarded with talks of possible layoffs, a wage freeze, restructured schedules, loss of fair and equal overtime pay, loss of seniority, loss of benefit days, and the list goes on and on. We have never achieved the level of staff that you, the Kenosha County Board of Supervisors, have approved, most likely because, as we have been told time and time again, it is just cheaper to pay overtime than it is to hire a new employee. In the not-so-distant past, inmates knew that assaulting jail staff was an offense that carried a penalty of at least 5 years prison time and they were very concise of this fact. Recently, however, certain judges seem to feel that being assaulted by an inmate, whether it is physical violence or simply being spit on or having fecal or urine matter thrown on us, is just part of our job, and have chosen to lighten the penalties for such offenses or dismiss those charges altogether.
Go ahead and wrap up, please.
Okay. This change in sentencing has spread like wildfire throughout the jail. A short time ago, a federal marshal inmate who was HIV positive physically assaulted a correctional officer here in Kenosha and was released from jail not long before that officer finished his 3 years of HIV testing. Let me finish up here. In closing, we all understand that times are tough and good-paying jobs that can support a family are hard to find. We realize that we will never be millionaires doing what we do, but we are still very fortunate to be members of the working class. But that should, in no way or shape or form, be leveraged to use against us. Although oftentimes forgotten and overlooked, we are still taxpayers and voters. Thank you for the opportunity. Sincerely, members of AFSCME Local 990 Jail.
Thank you. Anyone else wishing to address the board?
My name's Nick Kasmer. I live at 6517 94th Avenue. I'm here to speak on the resolutions before the board involving 990J, Local 990J, and Local 70. The first issue I would like to speak on is the termination of the highway contract. It's not necessary tonight. Based on what I've seen, you're having a first reading of the policies tonight and a second reading coming, I would assume, next month. As such, if the contract is terminated tonight and there's no policy in place, I'd like to know what exactly is going to go on between now and August. Is there going to be no employee policy in place? Is it just going to be whatever goes on at the highway? Until you have the time where you're dealing with the policy, the contract should stay in place. This isn't an issue of having to deal with WRS or union dues because of the severability clause in the contract. Those two things can be changed whenever, in fact, union dues are no longer coming out of the contract as we speak. The termination and the policy should be done on the same night at the same time. Regarding the interim policies that you're hearing for the first time tonight, we don't object to a lot of them, okay, and that includes a lot of the things that result in out-of-pocket costs to the employees. Specifically, the workers' comp section is going to result in further out-of-pockets for employees. The elimination of double time is going to result in further reduction in pay. The 3-day waiting period for A&S, the health insurance, no objections from the employees on those things. I would also like to remind the board that just because the contracts are going to be terminated at some point doesn't mean that the contracts didn't work well for a good period of time. There's things in that contract that worked well. There's nothing that prevents this board from adopting the majority of those contracts, minus the things that are illegal, like the WRS, like the union dues, and even the modified version of the grievance procedure could be adopted. If the board chooses to go forward with these policies, there are several areas we'd like to see changes on. Specifically, the first would be seniority. With seniority is an easy way to determine various things throughout the workplace. It eliminates favoritism, eliminates nepotism, and eliminates any kind of arguments employees could have as to why did this employee get it and I didn't. It could be specifically used for vacation picks. It could be used to determine overtime assignments initially and then based on an equitable basis afterwards. It could be used for job postings. It could be used for layoffs. Seniority is an easy way. It's a clear-cut way to do things going forward. The other issue, the second issue is the grievance procedure. What's being proposed to the board is a stripped-down version of what the grievance procedure is now. And it's specifically being proposed with regards to just disciplines, and not even just disciplines, only one-day suspensions and higher, and workplace safety issues. Although that's somewhat of what's being proposed under the budget repair bill, it doesn't mean that the board has to go that far. Just because that's the limit of the law doesn't mean that you can't approve certain other things to be part of a grievance procedure. We would certainly ask that the board looks into something like that and doesn't just do the bare minimum. The other issue is the ability to have an actual impartial hearing officer, which is required under the law. I don't know what the county's plans is regarding an impartial hearing officer. I don't know whether it's going to be an actual arbitrator, which is what we've had in the past, or whether it's going to be a county employee. I don't think a county employee is an impartial hearing officer, be it a supervisor, be it a director. Impartial hearing officer, somebody comes in, doesn't know the employee, doesn't know anybody here, and simply makes a ruling on the case. That's what we'd ask to go forward with. The third issue is the overtime. What's being proposed for both the jail, well, in the resolution, actually, the jail is looking to go forward under the old system, which we would like to see, is Fair Labor Standards Act overtime. Under the Fair Labor Standards Act, there's really, I think there's two important things that the board needs to realize. That means benefit time is not considered hours worked, meaning somebody goes on a funeral, somebody goes on vacation all week, somebody takes casual days, that's not considered hours worked, meaning that employee, if you add in the benefit time, could actually be forced to work 50, 60 hours in a week and not get any time and a half for that. That's what Fair Labor Standards Act. Maybe given 30 seconds to complete my thoughts.
I'll give you 30 seconds, but you know I'm not quite trustful of you.
Not trustable.
Go ahead.
Well, the suit's not fooling you? Specifically with the highway, there's two issues we'd want to see changed. The work hours, we want a specific set of work hours in there. We're not asking that it always be the work hours, but they've worked 7 to 3:30 for the longest period of time. They like to just have that be the standard. Not every day, but at least know that that's usually what they're going to come in for work. And also truck assignment. They're usually assigned a piece of equipment that they know how it works. They know problems with the assignment. If that doesn't happen, the reason for doing that is to save on depreciation. That's what the county's doing. Although I think that's a good idea. The other problem is these employees are going to be working on pieces of equipment they don't know. They're going to have to do pre-trips inspections. That's time that these folks aren't out on the road doing their work. Again, we recognize these are tough times for the county. We're not willing to put in our fair share. You know, we're already contributing WRS, which is 5.8% of their gross wages. Any more pay, you're starting to really hit people hard, and that's more money that's not coming into the economy here. Please consider these issues that we've talked about. Please make sure that we do something on them with regards to the policies. Thank you.
Thank you. I think that was 32. Anyone else wishing to address the board?
David Buin, 24607 67th Street, and I am a highway department worker, and I'm here to address the board concerning one of the policies that's in that up for tonight for the first reading. I know Nick talked a little bit about the overtime, but that's the only part I want to dive into is the mandatory overtime of it. I'd like this board to know right now that up to now we've had no mandatory overtime in place because it wasn't needed. My case is simple. Our family's doing what it needs to survive through this economy, through the added costs of pension, health care, lower wages as proposed in the policy. Some of this is in your control, some of it's out of your control. I understand that. But it's causing forcing a significant loss of income on our family and other families. Board members, you're here serving the public right now, but wait, your cell phone's ringing. Your other job requires you to have mandatory overtime. Can you get up right now and answer your phone? Can you get up right now and tell the chairman I have to leave because I have to go to my job? Otherwise tomorrow morning I'm going to be reprimanded. That's what we're facing at the highway department. We have some other employees in the highway department who are single parents. We have employees who are elected officials, just as you are. What are they supposed to do with mandatory overtime in place? We could be shopping or having dinner out of town where the sun is shining. Then a stray storm pops up, which we have seen recently, which came off the lake. They call me where I'm at. The sun is shining. I'm far from home and able to respond. I can't because I'm too far from home. The next day I'm reprimanded. And after so many reprimands, you're gone. I'm not an employee of the highway department no more. Or I taking a shower. I got to put my phone in a plastic bag to protect it because Kenosha County might call. Going to the bathroom. Need I say more about that one? I've been employed by the highway department for 18 years. And never, and I mean never, have I seen a case where the public was in jeopardy because of lack of people in that highway department. I look at the employees of the highway department like a fire department. When you ring the bell, we respond. We've shown that time and time again. We feel that going to the level of mandatory overtime is not needed. As I stated, you have an excellent workforce over there in that highway department. We're there for you. All we ask is you be here for us now. I can bring up many other examples where I feel the county board should give this language a second look, but that's not tonight's discussion. Pass the first reading if needed, but please give that mandatory overtime a second look, and I ask you to remove it, but the final decision will be yours, and I'm sure you will make the right choice. We are county employees trying to make ends meet through a difficult economy, and that might mean even working more than one job, depending on each individual. I was a local politician for 16 years. I was there for my residents, and I was there for my employees, and I ask you to do the same. I thank you for your time.
Thank you. Anyone else wishing to address the board?
Mark Montague, 7835 36th Avenue, Kenosha. And I want to speak first in behalf of 990J. I've always had the utmost respect, and for anything that's going on within the jail system, that these guys aren't under the microscope any more than they need to be. But right now they need to see their jobs treated fairly, and that money that's out there with the revenue flow needs to be issued fairly. I'm just going to go through this 2011 policies, Department of Public Works, and I just highlighted some things, so this is going to jump all over the place the way I normally do it. But I had a few county board supervisors call me, and I really appreciated that. I'm hoping that I get more phone calls. Right now, the standard work week is 40 hours. It says I establish our breaks, our meal periods that best serves the operational needs of the department. It's already happening. The normal meal period should be approximately halfway through the workday. We're already doing that. There's all kinds of departments throughout the county that switch lunch hours, take an early break, take a late lunch. It's already going on. And I think it points to the flexibility of this workforce. Times it may be necessary to modify an employee's starting and quitting time, as well as number of hours worked to accommodate Kenosha County needs. It says advance notice of such modifications will be provided when possible. That would be nice. I was wondering what a non-exempt employee is, because if you're a non-exempt employee, it says here, your wages are frozen until further notice. Okay? We agreed to that too, 3-0, so I guess we're non-exempt employees. The second shift differential used to be 5%. Now it's 25 cents. Those guys that are on second shift are basically the guys that, if there's not any snow on the ground, they're in the shop working. If there is snow on the ground, they're doing a four-corner stall till the rest of us can get in. Right now, people think we don't deserve overtime until we work 40 hours. I wish one of you, or maybe 2 or 3 of you, would take the time tomorrow, get on some work clothes. If you wear 13-size boots, you could have an extra set of mine. Come out on one of those concrete blow-ups and tell me we're not busting our rear ends. Just one time. Just somebody call me. And I don't mean one of these cosmetic vacations that you guys come in, we're going to look at the shop, and for that day, everybody's in the shop cleaning the floors and straightening the place up so it looks okay, so the supervisors can walk halfway into the shop and then be told to turn around and walk the other direction. Holidays. I want to thank the county for going out of their way to still give us some holidays and still pay us time and a half. It's very nice. Here I am down in casual days now. In event of an emergency, shorter advance notice is acceptable. They want us to give 24 hours notice to use some time off. The emergency must be reported and verified if requested by management. Are we all not grown-ups? Are we all not dealing with things every day? Any day, this is a change. Any day taken under this section, if you call in for an emergency vacation day, which used to be charged a single day, will be charged your casual time, which most people like to save till the end of the year for things like doctor's visits and that. Casual days may not be carried over or cashed out. That's fine. Everything's pretty much the same on this. What I really need you people to do is think about what we do for our jobs. We've been going out this since last June. There's still no answers, I guess. And what we don't want to get in is to get in an area without a contract and without some policies. Because we've had guys hanging out to dry most of the year, and we don't want to see that happen. We'd like to see a close and a finish to that, and I'm sure you guys can get there. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Anyone else wishing to address the board? Any additional citizen comments?
Good evening. Rebecca Corso, 6715 31st Avenue, Kenosha, Wisconsin. I would just like to further expound on Shane Gerber's concerns. I have been employed going on 8 years with the Sheriff's Department in the jail division. Most of my co-workers, booking officers, and correctional officers have been there far longer than I have been. And I just feel that it would be a great injustice to compromise the integrity of these employees. They have given many years of their lives to protect us and the community at large. And I think it would be negligible if we took things away from these people that greatly have earned them, in my estimation. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else wishing to address the board? Citizen comments? Anyone else wishing to address the board? Last call. Citizen comments are closed. I am going to ask at this point to have a special guest with us this evening, Christopher Mark, come forward with his mother, and I think he's got someone else with him, correct? If you'd all like to come forward. That way the camera can see all of you. It's my pleasure this evening to recognize Christopher, a Special Olympian who spent some time in Greece, and you can tell by all the jewelry he's wearing, a little bit more than what I have on this evening. He obviously has excelled in the sport, certainly much beyond what I would be able to do, and I compliment you and I congratulate all of you, and I welcome you here to the County Board Chamber. And I've got a certificate of recognition signed by both myself as County Board Chairman and the County Executive, Jim Cruiser, who is out of town this evening, not with us. So if you'll indulge me, I'll read the proclamation or the recognition for you this evening. It says, whereas Christopher Mark of Burlington is one of the 2 Wisconsin athletes who qualified to compete at the 2011 Special Olympics World Summer Games held in Athens, Greece from June 25th to July 4th, 2011. And whereas the 2011 World Summer Games featured 22 Olympic-type sports and drew over 7,000 athletes from nearly 180 different countries, as well as tens of thousands of volunteers, event officials, coaches, families, spectators, and of course media representatives, making it the largest sporting event in the world in 2011. And whereas as a member of the Team USA, which included athletes and coaches from all 50 states, Christopher competed in track and field at the Games, earning the silver medal in the long jump, and placing 4th in both the 200-meter race and the 4x100 relay. And whereas Christopher has been involved in Special Olympics for 3 years and has competed in track, softball, bowling, and basketball, and whereas outside of Special Olympics, Christopher enjoys art, truck pulling, driving tractors, and camping. He is a strong student at Central High School, where he is involved in mentoring of incoming freshmen, has received the Perfect Attendance Award for 5 consecutive years, holy cow, and has been on the honor roll. I spent 5 years in high school as well, but that's when it was a 4-year high school. Whereas Christopher's accomplishments, team spirit, and good sportsmanship and winning attitude are an inspiration and source of pride not only for his family but for the entire community. Now, therefore, we, Jim Cruiser, Kenosha County Executive, and Mark Molinaro Jr., County Board Chairman, together with the Kenosha County Board of Supervisors, do hereby present this certificate of recognition to Christopher Mark on behalf of the citizens of Kenosha County in recognition of his qualifying for and participation in the Special Olympics World Summer Games. We commend him for his accomplishments and commitment to excellence and wish him continued success in his future endeavors given this 20th day of July 2011. Jim Cruiser, Kenosha County Executive, Mark Molinaro, Kenosha County Board Chairman. Congratulations. Christopher, again, congratulations. I see Mom has a camera. Did you want to get a picture of him before he goes? This is going to be the best picture you've ever had of all of them. Okay, announcements of the chairman. I have a few. I'd like to, this evening, albeit she may not want the recognition, recognize Supervisor Gail Gens for her efforts. That came up just a little bit short. Congratulations, a great effort in the Kenosha County Women's Open. And I trust you'll be there again, as you are every year. So congratulations on a great effort. Supervisor Underhill, I understand you are going to be involved in yet another contest that no doubt you will again win, unless one of your cohorts here are going to be involved. But on August 6th at noon, there is the Southport Light Station is going to have their ice cream social again from 10 to 4, and at 12 o'clock you'll be involved in the pie eating contest. Lemon meringue. So certainly turn out to support that if you would like to. There's been several changes in the agenda. You should all be looking at your second amended agenda. I want to thank the clerk's office, Reggie, Edie, county clerk, for once again having to jump through some hoops to get our agendas in order. We had some last minute changes that were necessitated by a number of actions that took place on various committees leading up to tonight. So I thank them once again for their efforts. We had a golf follow-up meeting that I'm going to have Supervisor Gail Gens touch on a little bit under supervisor reports. So if you can hold off until then. We did get together with the county executive and the golf director, as well as the staff out on the golf courses, and talked a little bit about some of the efforts that have been put into place since our last conversation. I had an offer from, if you recall, when we reorganized the county board committees, we talked about, I believe in January, bringing the discussion back to the county board to look at its effectiveness, talk about its pros and cons, what we've seen that may or may not need to be addressed. I mentioned that I've had a number of calls from various directors, county staff, fortunate to say mostly positive, if not all positive, in terms of the response to the reorganized committees. But I got a call, actually an email today from Teddy Winnett, who, as always, has offered the Extension Education Office. She'd like to get involved and help us pull together the evaluation process. She'll bring her staff to the table for us. I'm going to have her at the September Executive Committee meeting so we can begin to talk about some thoughts she might have on online tools that she'll be able to use to pull this information together and get it back out to the county board in January. So once again, I appreciate that offer. If you've got any thoughts or comments leading up to it, if not, it'll be, I believe, on our agenda, the meeting in September. The executive committee, you're welcome to come and listen in. And I believe that's all I have this evening. Supervisor reports. Are we not? All right, let's try it again, please. Supervisor reports. Supervisor Overman.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. From the Public Works and Facility Committee, our last meeting was held at the Pringle Nature Center. We try to hold a meeting there each year to give new members of the committee, and this year the Youth and Governance, naturally, to see the facility. A lot of people, it's their first time there. They were gracious to host us again this year. People got a good look at that facility. We naturally, when we're talking about minutes, and one of our policies that we're working on right now is updating minutes, we should look at the minutes that we get from the Pringle Nature Center. They're very organized, very up to date, and they do a great job. So at that meeting, I'm just going to hit a couple of the highlights. We have a Parks and Open Space Plan that we're reviewing. We hit Chapter 3 of it. Parks and Open Space Plan has to be updated in order for us to be able to apply for grants, and we're updating that this year. The courthouse Molinaro restoration project is ongoing. We have, at this point, 7.5 days lost in inclement weather. The storm that hit on June 30th gave no damage. That 7.5 days is within the plans of that project, so we're not in any problem there. I was asked to update on employees at that site. We have 27 total workers. 5 are from Illinois, 7 from Kenosha, and 15 from other areas of Wisconsin. The Corporation Council's remodel relocate project is ongoing. They're in the measuring, moving, figuring stages. One of the things we were told at that meeting was someone there, and the Corporation Council himself didn't know who, had a 15-foot desk that they were trying to figure in. Maybe it was 12 feet, but it was something quite large that didn't quite fit into cubicles. The exterior doors on the detention center are a new item that will be going out to bid. There's grade problems with those doors, freezing and thawing, and a total replacement of those doors needs to be done. The golf course, you're going to be hearing about a meeting that was held with staff a little bit later in this meeting. But the golf courses, as we know, with the thing we always hear is the weather, but they are behind last year in sales, and now the reason is because of the really nice weather from last year. So we are behind, but the thing that we stressed as a committee, and I know that we stressed at our last meeting with the executive and the people that met last week, was how to produce more revenue per person that gets out of a car there. And June of 2011 was about 50,000 more profitable than 2010 with much fewer rounds. So they are working. They're working on things that that we've stressed, and hopefully we can come up with more profit with less volume there this year, because we know we are going to have less volume. The Park Open Space Plan I've hit. Highway Director reported to us that we're going to be getting about $238,000 less from the state in the upcoming budget. The Parks Department reported that the storm damage at the Kemper Center is basically cleaned up. we do have a large task of reforestation there. At this time, all the damage to building and fences will probably be covered by insurance, but nothing else. The 4th of July weekend was the busiest we've had in 9 years at our county parks. At the Old Settlers Park, where the dog park everyone attends in Paddock Lake, they actually had to close the dog park to use that for overflow parking on the 4th of July. So people are using our parks. People are naturally concerned about the Kemper Center damage. We've had a lot of input as far as help that we can look into, and it's going to be a long process to reforest there. So that's a brief update on the Public Works Facility Committee.
Thank you. Supervisor Arrington.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. This was on my desk when I got in tonight. I think it's relevant that I share this with the group. This will come out of Human Services through the Division of Child and Family Services. It's the National Night Out, and I want to give you a brief history about National Night Out. National Night Out is a program initiative for gang intervention throughout the communities in Kenosha County. And this year, as I've been made aware tonight, National Night Out will be celebrated in 3 Kenosha locations from 5 p.m. to 8 p.m. on Tuesday, August the 2nd. The locations are McKinley Elementary School, Brass Community School, and Wilson Elementary School. And the free event is being sponsored by Kenosha County Division of Children and Family Services and Kenosha Unified School District. Each event will offer food, face painting, fun contests, games, and prizes. Entertainment for the event includes music, magic, balloon animals, and dancers. It says here that National Night Out, known as America's Night Out Against Crime, is in its 28th year. An expected 37 million people in 15,000 communities from all 50 states, U.S. territories, Canadian cities, and military bases worldwide will be celebrating the event. I think that it's worth our while to go out and support these events. You know, the children in Kenosha County are the future of the county, and I think it's an excellent thing that we are hosting this event this year. Thank you.
Thank you. Supervisor Clark.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. On your desk tonight, there's a 2011 general fund estimate for year end. It's getting to that time of the year now where we're starting to monitor how we're doing financially. We ended last year our reserves at 7.6 million. I believe the audit is almost done, and those are as close to being audited as they can be. We're anticipating that our reserves will go up to about 8.4 million this upcoming year in 2011 in the best case scenario. Worst case scenario, going down to 6.3 million. There are some things that are controllable, there are things that are uncontrollable. One of the things that we can't control is the anticipated increase in outstanding tax delinquencies. We're budgeting for $557,000. That decreases. On the revenue side or expense saving side, we have federal inmate revenues are up over budget, but that was anticipated, if you recall, during the budget debate. Sales tax revenues, last year when we did the budget, we pulled the budget down to a more realistic number. Sales tax revenues are trending higher by about $240,000. We have the Wisconsin retirement system savings as a part of the budget repair bill, the employee contributions of $536,000. Human services placements, currently our expenses are under budget and projected to be under by about $750,000. And the Regional Transit Authority that was overlooking the KRM was disbanded by the state legislature. The money was divvied up 50% to Milwaukee County, 25 to Racine and Kenosha. That amount for Kenosha County is about $300,000. We had some intended budgeted decreases or resolutions of a total of $200,000 to decrease the reserves. It's $100,000, I'm sorry. We had I can't recall the item in the budget, but the other item is for the recall elections, we had appropriated $50,000 for that. Health insurance at this point in time is trending to be over budget by about $1.2 million. It is early in the year. They tend to have this trend early where they're down, so we're just going to kind of keep an eye on that. Speaking of reserves and their importance, tonight we're going to be passing resolutions authorizing the sale of bonds. As part of that process, we have a presentation to the rating agencies, Moody's and Standard & Poor's. In years past, typically we went down to them. This year we did utilize the accounting's technology, and we had video conference with them. What previously took us 2 days, and in some cases staying out of town overnight, turned out to be a one-day event where we were able to have one presentation in the morning, the other in the afternoon. The results of those ratings were they affirmed Kenosha County's positions, Moody's Investors at AA1, which is one notch from the best rating that we could have, which is AAA. Finance Committee is monitoring ways to improve that. That's a long-term goal. It is not something that you're going to attain overnight. Standard & Poor's gave us a AA rating, which is 2 notches below. In the report of the rating agencies, in both of them, they talk about preserving or improving our reserve balances. If our reserves were to decrease, we can expect that if they continue to decrease, that it's going to affect our bond rating. If they increase, that's one of the requirements to get to the next level. The impact of our rating is very important on our ability to go out and borrow money. Tonight, when we talk about these resolutions, we'll see the impact of our strong financial position, that we've finished the year on an up note last year in our reserves, and that we're adopting policies and have a willingness to come in with a balanced budget. Finally, just to piggyback onto the golf course, while their revenues are down, certainly for weather, which seems to be the common reason, there have been financial systems that have been put in place that really allow them to manage staffing, to observe staffing, to look at trends and analyze it better. They have reduced their expenses accordingly, and I don't have the numbers in front of me, but the financial condition or the net loss year to date is significantly better than where we are when we have a lower revenue trend, and that's because we're managing our expenses. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, Supervisor Clark. Supervisor Brunig?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. The Executive Committee had asked me to look into 2 separate items, and I'm here to report on them. The economic impact study that was requested of the Extension Education Committee. The person that we work with is speaking at a conference in Australia and will be there until the end of July. While we can start the impact study for Country Thunder before the end of the year, we will not have actual data that we can look at and manipulate until next year when Country Thunder rolls around at that time. I have talked to Debbie briefly tonight, and they are willing to work with us, so I know that everything will work out with that, and we can get the information back to the committee as soon as possible. There was a question about signs that was brought up at the last Executive Committee meeting. I do have some information regarding statutes on these. Signs permitted in all districts without a zoning permit, agricultural product and farm identification signs, bulletin boards, directional signs, home occupation, official signs, real estate, political posters, which can only be temporary, and special event signs. Signs that are permitted in all residential districts are real estate development signs and temporary development signs. It goes into more in-depth detail of this, and I can report on that later after I've read through it. There was something that came across my desk a couple days ago. I asked the Planning and Development to give me some information on it. I haven't been able to read through the whole process yet. adverse possession seems to be growing on the West Coast and down in Florida. This is a program where, well, not really a program, people have decided that they are taking possession of homes that have been foreclosed. They walk in, they become squatters in there. The banks that have taken over the homes that were foreclosed on are no longer in operation, so no one knows who actually owns them. By the time the new bank comes in and sorts everything out, these people have been in the homes for about 3, 5, 7 years, and they've already taken possession of the home. Unfortunately, we need to keep an eye out for this in Kenosha County, and just make sure that this isn't going to happen in our area. Also, due to some family commitments over the past year, and especially over the last 2 months, I have asked the County Executive's Office to find a replacement for me on the Housing Authority Committee. I am not able to give 100% to my committees at this time, and as such, I am going to be stepping away from a couple of them. The County Executive will be looking for a replacement for the Housing Authority, and I will be looking for a replacement for the Land and Water Conservation Committee, which is a chairman of the board appointment. So once I find that one, then I will be asking you to appoint someone new. Thank you.
At the same time, I would suggest that if anyone is interested, maybe you talk with Supervisor Brunig, get a sense of responsibility with the committee's time frame, time commitment, et cetera, and let me know if you have an interest. Thank you, Supervisor Brunig. Supervisor Gens?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Just for the record, you have to push your light so that I know it's on. Not now, it's too late, I already got you, but
Okay.
in the future.
I was able to attend this golf meeting where we met with the director, Dan Dreyer, and Dave Haslett, and the County Board of Supervisors and County Executive. We talked about golf profitability through the end of June of 2011, the forecast for the rest of the 2011 golf season, direction of golf operations for the remainder of 2011, the 2012 capital budget, and an update on a golf course study, and that included the scope and timing. We also put an article on your desk tonight about that appeared in the article appeared in the Milwaukee Journal Sentinel business section. And if you look on the back of your article, there's a list of golf courses that are ranked by the highest slope-rated Milwaukee area golf courses. This article is positive and free publicity for our county golf course. As you can see, Brightondale was listed as number 23 in the highest slope-rated Milwaukee area golf courses. This list contains elite golf courses in the area, and we are fortunate to be listed. 14 of the courses listed are private and not able to be played by the public. The balance have greens fees that range from $200 per round at Erin Hills on the high end to $42 per round at Brightondale on the low end. Kenosha County is very fortunate to offer great golf at this rate and be in the company of other courses in our area that are much pricier. Carthage College is working on an evaluation project for the golf courses, which will assess the financial impact of a golf course on the local economy, analyze the profitability of 2 Kenosha County golf courses, evaluate competition and other courses, look at if 45 holes is the proper number for Brightondale. If not, what is the optimum number? Market analysis on the appetite for golf, local growth potential, and other factors. We expect the final report in the beginning of September, and this study will give us valuable information to make decisions on the future of the golf course. We are also going to be forming a study committee with representatives from our community to help give input on golf operations. The appointments for this committee will be made by the county executive. Thank you.
Thank you. Seeing no other lights, supervisor reports are closed.
County Executive Appointments, Dr. J. Michael Santarelli to serve on the Kenosha County Board of Health.
Refer to Human Services.
Martin Lecoq to serve on the Kenosha County Land Information Council.
Refer to Planning, Development, and Extension Education Committee.
George Melcher to serve on the Kenosha County Land Information Council.
Also refer to Planning, Development, and Extension Education.
Policy resolutions, first reading to required. From Finance Administration Committee, a resolution to establish interim employment policies for employees employed by the Kenosha County Division of Highways, Local 70, submitted by Finance Administration Committee. Clark, yes. O'Day, yes. Jeff Gens, yes. Eckern, yes. Rose, no. Singer, excused. Grady, excused. From Finance Administration Committee, a resolution to establish interim employment policies for employees employed by the Kenosha County Sheriff's Department Corrections Division, submitted by Finance Administration. Clark, no. O'Day, yes. Jeff Gens, yes. Eckern, yes. Rose, no. Singer, excused. Grady, excused.
Okay, at this point, as we move into resolutions, I'm going to ask, unless there is objection, to move Resolution 37 to the front of the line. I understand there's many people here. I don't know everyone's situation, but I do know that Mr. Riedel has cut his vacation short, came back this evening to be here. I want to get him back to where his family is as quickly as possible, so without objection, we'll move 37 up. Seeing none, clerk.
Mr. Chairman, do we get to speak on the policies on one or two?
They are two readings, no debate on the first reading. Tonight was the first reading. We'll have the second reading at the next meeting, which will have the full debate.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome. Supervisor Singer.
Thank you, Chairman. I pressed my button for 1 and 2 for the sole reason of asking the chairman to refer those to the committees, Judiciary and Law and Highway and Parks, because I wasn't at the finance meeting, but these directly relate to those committees. They were not in front of those committees, and I would, just for expediency, I'd request that the chairman refer those at least to the two committees so that they can discuss them. I think it's important. If you don't, then I'm going to be asking at the second resolution as time. I'm going to be asking for at that time. So I would rather have you do it now than have it delayed.
I understand your request, and my hesitation is the issue of timing, so I don't know if...
Because these were originally resolutions 27 and 28 that were in our packet.
I understand what they were, and I understand your request and can appreciate the point you're making. Let me ask the Chairman of Finance Administration, is there intention to have another meeting on this issue? Either one of these two?
There's, at this point in time, there's no intention to have a meeting. I have no objection if you want to assign them to a committee. However, it is the, I believe it's the Finance and Administration Committee that has the responsibility relative to employee policy. But there are some operational issues here that maybe the other committees have. I have no objection having a joint meeting if that's the desire.
Thank you. All right, at this point, I'm going to leave the resolutions for a second reading at the next meeting. There's, on 37, you said. Do we have a schedule with us? Supervisor Elverman, does your committee meet before the next county board meeting?
We would meet the first Monday of next month, first Monday in August.
All right, and then Supervisor Michael.
We meet the second Wednesday, so we'd be missing. We could have a special meeting.
All right, I'm going to ask you to do that. I'll refer both these matters to the committee. I will not remove them from the agenda. If the committees have an inability to get together before the next county board meeting, and can get that information passed along to the Finance Committee, we will proceed with the items on the agenda as they are. Supervisor Haas, do you have a question?
Yes, I do. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Would it be proper to make a motion that we have a special meeting on these two committees for this? If so, I'd like to make a motion.
I don't know that it's proper or improper. We can certainly get into that discussion, but I believe both chairmen, certainly the Highway and Parks and Facilities, no, Public Works and Facilities, meet ahead of that meeting, so it will be on their agenda. I trust that the chairman will put it on, and Chairman of Judiciary and Law has indicated that he will have a special meeting ahead of it. If you want that in a motion, feel free to make it.
I'll make a motion that we do that.
Motion made by Haas, seconded by Singer. Is that in order?
On just those two committees? On just those two resolutions?
It's actually on the two ordinances. Or policy resolutions. I'm sorry,
Right.
policy resolutions.
Right, yeah, that's fine.
All right. Any discussion? Seeing no lights, all those in favor of roll call requested. Those in favor of a referral of Resolution 1 to the Public Works and Facilities Committee, and Policy Resolution 2 to the Judiciary and Law will vote P and plus if you're in favor, P and minus if you're opposed. Motion carries 25-2 with one abstention. Now, seeing no objection to moving 37 up, again, we will take item number 37. Supervisor Singer.
Chairman, I have an objection to 37 as a whole because I was at the Finance Committee meeting tonight. I have a copy of the agenda. That particular resolution was not on the agenda, was not acted on by the committee tonight.
It wasn't on this evening's agenda. It was on the original, or the regular Finance Committee agenda. Is that correct?
I got an email from Supervisor Clark, and if I'd like to read it.
Well, no need to read that because that's, in my
I think you got the same email
in my opinion, not
indicating
germane in
that.
the discussion. You're opposed to moving 37 up, correct?
Yeah, well, I'm opposed to 37 altogether. If you
Not-
want to move it up,
not-
I don't think we should be acting on
Not
it
germane,
tonight.
not part of the discussion. You're opposed to moving 37 up. 37 is on the agenda. This evening, it was agended properly.
Yes, I'm opposed to
It's
it.
germane. Thank you. Anyone else? If not, all those in favor of, well, I don't even have to take a vote, do I?
Yeah, two-thirds vote.
Two-thirds vote. All right, roll call.
To move it up.
What we're voting on is moving item number 37 to the front of the agenda. Vote yes or no. It's on the agenda. We will discuss it and vote on it at some point in time. Supervisor Rose.
Is that required that we move an item up? I thought you, as chairman, could just move an item up and that's that.
So did I.
Well, that's what I think you ought to do, and let's proceed.
Corp Counsel is telling me that this requires a vote and it has to be two-thirds.
All right?
Is that your position?
It's according to the rules. The order of business is established by the rules and is not to be changed except by unanimous consent or by a vote of two-thirds of the members present.
Just to move the agenda?
Yes.
Okay. There's our answer. So what you're voting on, for those who asked, if you are in favor of moving 37 to the front of the agenda, vote yes. If you're in favor of debating it at the end of the agenda, vote no. Motion carries. 37, clerk.
From the Finance Administration Committee, a resolution authorizing a notice to be given of the desire of Kenosha County to terminate the collective bargaining agreement between Kenosha County and Local 70.
Supervisor Clark.
Mr. Chairman, before I move it, I am going to at least recognize the concern of Supervisor Singer, and it's a concern that I had. And that's why I sent an email to the committee members and asked them to let me know whether they had an issue. There were two resolutions that came to the Finance and Administration Committee relative to work policies for the Highway 70 and the Jail 9, is it 1030? And those resolutions accomplished two things. Number one, it terminated the contract, and the chairman, the corporation counsel can speak to whether this is appropriate.
Supervisor Clark, Corp Counsel, without moving this agenda item, are we able to discuss it as he is currently?
I'm sorry, I didn't hear your question.
Without moving the agenda item, are we able to discuss it as Supervisor Clark is currently discussing it?
I guess I'm getting to an opinion or a question to the corporation counsel, but I'm trying to at least put the facts out there so he can answer the question.
I understand that.
Somebody has to move the issue, move the question.
So what he's looking to do is get a clarification answered by you before the motion is made.
Oh, that's fine.
Before I move it and it's out there.
Continue.
So number one, it terminated the contract. Number two, it put the work rules in place, temporary work rules. The committee adopted both resolutions. It was subsequently determined that it needed a policy resolution. It was a policy resolution requiring 2 readings. We have separated the action of the committee. That raises the question to myself whether it's appropriate to be a committee action, and I've asked this, or I've at least mentioned this to the corporation counsel, and was told that yes, this is proper. So this is coming from the committee. This resolution 37 in its current form has not been acted on individually, but incorporated in another resolution. So the question to the corporation counsel, is this proper under our rules, Robert's Rules of Order?
Does everyone understand the point made by Supervisor Clark? You don't understand? Okay, that was my question. So we'll let corporation counsel address the issue.
It's my understanding that the committee took 2 actions or attempted to act in 2 regards. One with respect to policies, with respect to the 2 unions, and the other to address the issue of terminating the contract in accordance with the provisions of the contract. There were 2 items, there were 2 resolutions that were placed on the agenda. When this was discussed, I had asked if the committee took up the issue of terminating the contract. I was told that they did. That can be put on the agenda, in my opinion. It can be put on either by the committee or by a single supervisor. This is not something that is new. We have had many occasions in the past where an individual supervisor has sponsored a resolution. So in either way, it can come before this board. There was some committee action on it. I'm satisfied that the public records and the open meeting law was complied with, and I think that should answer your question.
Are you prepared to make a motion, Supervisor
Yes,
Clark?
thank you. I move resolution 37.
37 moved by Clark, seconded by O'Day. Supervisor Clark.
Resolution 37 authorizes resolution authorizing a notice to be given of the, and underline this word, desire of the Kenosha County to terminate the collective bargaining agreement between Kenosha County and Local 70. This action tonight does not terminate the contract. It gives them notice pursuant to Section 21.3 in their agreement, and that requires that we give them notice in the month of July of our desire to terminate the contract. And I believe the intention of the administration is to terminate the contract upon the adoption of the policy. So between now and the adoption of the policy, the contract that is currently in existence and the rules that we're operating by will continue. Once we adopt the policies, the administration is authorized with this action to terminate the contract. That is what we are doing tonight. Thank you.
Thank you. Supervisor Singer.
Thank you, Chairman. As I've stated, I don't believe that this is in order tonight. As Supervisor Clark indicates, this does not terminate the contract. The action at the committee was to terminate the contract. This is for due notice. It's a different issue. Just recently, in some previous motions, we referred policy resolution number 1 and number 2, which was inferred to be from their action, policy resolution 27 and 28, to be the exact resolution as a policy resolution, that, although I don't see that in the paperwork that I received. I was not at the committee, but that was, both of those referred to the committees, okay? By inference, then, we just referred this action to that committee. And so I think what we're talking about is two different things. If you are saying that that's your argument, then we just referred it to a committee. We can't take action on this. This individual resolution was not in the Finance Committee minutes. It's not in the agenda either for tonight, nor was it in the agenda for last week. I think our corporation counsel misunderstands the issue. I'm not an attorney myself, but I feel that this is out of order and should not be acted upon tonight. If there is a vote, I will not vote at all on it, because I feel that I'd be violating the law, opens meetings law, and I don't want to go there.
State your point.
The Corporation Council has ruled on this resolution. I would ask that we have the debate be to whether you're for it or against it.
Thank you. Supervisor Singer, anything else on the issue?
Yes, I feel that the issue to give due notice to the union for the cancellation of the contract, rather than actually canceling as policy resolution number 1, or excuse me, that'd be number 2. Number 2 does, no, it would be number 1, does, are two different things. And I would like to hear the Corporation Council explanation on that, to my point.
All right, before we get to Corporation Council, let me make this point. You are correct. They are two different issues. As you know, because you've challenged the referral of agenda items in the past, whether it be myself as chairman or anyone else, it's happened here on the board floor many a time. Any supervisor can bring forward a resolution. What's on the agenda this evening is Resolution 37, brought forward by Supervisor Clark. The committee, whomever you'd like to select as properly agendaing this item. Yes, it is two different issues. You couldn't be more correct. Wasn't discussed at Finance, wasn't discussed anywhere. It's on the agenda because it was brought forward by a supervisor. It's moved here tonight by Supervisor Clark, seconded by Supervisor O'Day. It is germane to the agenda. It is germane for discussion. It is appropriate. The only difference is I have chosen as chairman not to refer it to committee. In the past, when it has been referred, it's been challenged. So that's the issue before you. I believe that's in line with what Corporation Council has said, and we'll continue to the discussion. Supervisor Gens.
Okay.
Supervisor, you were done. I turned the mic off. Yes, you did. State your point. State your point, Supervisor Gens. Supervisor Singer, if you would be patient for a moment.
I guess I'm trying to look at the right resolution, and I'm looking at what was on my desk here. And under the now therefore be it resolved, it states clearly to me in the last sentence that the termination is to be effective immediately. So if we're going to make it concurrent with our adoption of policies, I mean, that needs to be cleaned up, I would think. Thank you.
I will have Corporation Council address that when he addresses Supervisor Singer's questions. Corporation Council.
Could you repeat your question, Supervisor Singer?
Briefly, or I'll repeat it.
Okay, I had a nice explanation from the chairman about why it's on the agenda, okay? But it can be on the agenda, but I'm still saying it wasn't acted upon at any committee.
What are you asking the Corporation Council?
He indicated that it was acted upon on the committee, and so did the chairman of Finance.
Not this resolution. He did not indicate it was acted upon.
I don't believe this particular resolution, the way it appears here tonight, was in front of the committee. It was my understanding that the committee addressed the issue should the contract be terminated. It was originally placed on with two policy resolutions, one for one union, one for the other union, and because of the deadline in here, the July deadline in here.
I understand the reason, okay? I don't need that reason. What I would really want to know is, did they actually have a vote on this particular resolution?
All right, I've already answered that. It was not brought to any committee. It's here this evening because it was brought forward by a supervisor. If you would, that has been answered, Supervisor Singer.
He's correct. I mean, I think that this could be brought by this didn't have to go to a committee. This could have gone to Supervisor Clark. He could have just brought it in. As long as it's on the agenda 24 hours before the meeting, and this was, then it's properly before the board tonight. He has the option to refer it to a committee or not refer it to a committee.
You don't have the floor right now. You had a question. It's been answered. Supervisor, Corporation Counsel, I need you to address the question then on the final now therefore be it resolved, which states at the end, with said termination to be effective immediately. When up on the top it says we are giving notice, as very succinctly pointed out by Supervisor Clark.
The notice that has been prepared is to make it effective immediately. I understand the language which states a desire to terminate, but because of some of the reasons that I've discussed with supervisors, and because of which relate to the deadline in the contract itself, this needs to be acted on tonight, in my opinion, and it needs to take effect immediately. You're not doing anything tonight that you could not have done for the last 30 years. This clause has been in the contract, I'm going to guess, for the last 30 years. Okay, it's got nothing to do with Act 10. If you don't want to act tonight on it, you take the chance that it can be argued in court that this contract will be extended for another year. That's why it's on the agenda tonight.
Thank you. You may not like the point of clarification, but I can't control that. Do you have another question or point, or you just don't like the answer?
I have a point. So if you want me to make it, otherwise I'm on my turn. Either way.
I'm only going to allow a point of clarification, not debate.
I even was told two different things. I mean, didn't we just hear that it was supposed to take effect when the policy was accepted? I mean, I'm just trying to get a handle on what we're doing here.
Supervisor Clark was putting a lot of emphasis on the word desire to terminate.
Right.
You desire to terminate, that's it. You want to terminate. If I say to you, I want to terminate my contract with you, I have the desire to terminate. I'm terminating the contract.
Then let's be clear about what we're doing. I agree. Then we're terminating.
Well,
we're not waiting till policies are accepted later.
All right. It was answered. If you need your light
on,
I'm
good.
Turn it back on, please. Supervisor Haas.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I feel there's 28 of us here, okay? And I don't think I've had a chance to even view this. I would like to make a motion that this refers back like 1 and 2.
Motion made by Haas, seconded by Gable, to refer this issue back to Finance and Administration.
Jurisdictional law, like we did on 1 and 2.
To Finance,
Especially 1.
Finance and Administration and Judiciary and Law. Again, moved by Haas, seconded by Gable. Anyone on the issue of referral? Supervisor, who asked for a point of order? Supervisor Clark, state your point.
I think it's improper to refer this back to any other committee. If you're going to refer it back to the administration, finance, this has nothing to do with working rules. This has to do with whether you're going to terminate or not. It's not a policy. This falls within the purview of the Finance and Administration Committee.
Thank you. Supervisor Rose on the issue of referral.
Yes. All right. I'm going to speak in opposition to the referral back to the committee. The committee, and I was there, The committee did deal with this question of do we or don't we terminate the contract. And if you look at policy resolution 27, the language itself, the next to the last paragraph, it clearly says that it is terminating the collective bargaining agreement with Local 70 as required, and then it cites the requisite sections. We dealt with this issue. There's nothing more to be said. Now, if you're in opposition to the resolution before us this evening because you believe that the contract should be extended, then vote against the resolution. If you believe, as the Corporation Council has advised, that we need to do this to be in compliance with the law, we need to do it at this meeting tonight, where there isn't another July meeting unless we're going to call some special meeting before the 31st of the month, so that we are in compliance. So you either vote for this evening or you have another special meeting, but I think we ought to vote it up one way or the other, and not through sort of negligence, see that it's been renewed, the contract has been renewed, sort of through the back door. And that's what I don't like about this referral back. There's nothing more to be said. We talked about this extensively in committee. The resolution 27 includes that paragraph, and the reason why I think Supervisor Clark extracted that and presented it here this evening is because of the contract requirement that the notice be given by the end of the month. And that's really all you're voting on here tonight. And it perhaps looks inartful the way it is done, and it probably in committee should have been more carefully delineated into two resolutions, and perhaps the wording should have been a little clearer. But now that we have discussed it, I think it is clear to all of us precisely what we are doing, and that is a question of giving notice, and that is all. So I urge you not to refer it back to the committee. There's nothing more to say.
Thank you. Again, there's lights on. We are on the issue of referral. Before we go any further, I want to have this clarification from Corporation Counsel. The advice from our legal counsel is to give the due notice before the end of the month of July, which is the impetus behind the resolution. Is that correct?
The intent is to comply with the language in the contract itself, which says that the notice is to be served no later than the date of the July meeting of the county board. There's only been two meetings of the, I interpret that to mean the second meeting of the county board, which is tonight in July. Your next July meeting is going to be in 2012.
Guaranteed, because I'm out of town the rest of the month of July. There will be no special meeting. Supervisor Elverman on the issue of referral.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. If I was going to bring this resolution in to the county board this evening, I'd have been all the way in here trying to figure out how I was going to sneak this one by. You know, those other two, now the policy resolutions, are what the committee discussed. I'm just hearing all this for the first time tonight, and a couple people are more up on it than I am. I believe we probably do have to do this evening. But every time we run into one of these things, and because I'm not on the in on this deal, I wasn't aware of any of it. Every time something like this happens, somebody in administration and or staff, bureaucrats that work for the county, didn't do their job. Flat didn't do their job. That's why we couldn't do those two tonight, because it wasn't thought out, planned out, and legal. So now here we have to try to slide this thing in, which is signed by a committee, but it's only brought by Supervisor Clark. It's got it's got two different bits of information in it, and I'm insulted this evening that I have to vote on this because somebody didn't do their job. It's got to be done in July. I understand that. First I heard about it this evening. I'm sure a lot of other people knew about it a lot longer than that, and this is just pure crap.
Are you in favor of referral then, or not?
I would say if we're, I don't know, I've heard so much double talk tonight. I don't know if we really legally, this has to be done or not.
I want to be on the topic of referral, please.
That's the referral. I guess I'm either way.
Thank you. Supervisor Ron Frederick on referral? Bear with me. There you go.
I guess the question I have is, of course, the Supervisor Gentz brought up about the effective immediate, because, you know, if I'm going to vote to refer it. But what I'm trying to figure out here is that the Corporation Council explained that if we don't do this, the contract automatically extends for another year, when state law won't allow it to extend for another year?
The state law made a lot of changes in the collective bargaining law as it has existed in this state for the last 50 years. Under the old law, the way it existed is that a contract like this contract here, the termination date is December 31st of 2010. It has in there this language that says it's automatically renewed for periods of 1 year unless this notice is given. On December 31st of 2010, normally, if there hadn't been all of this hullabaloo in Madison, we would have continued to negotiate a contract with Local 70. That's what we would have done. This contract would have continued in effect. It's called the dynamic status quo doctrine. There are two provisions in the Constitution, in the federal Constitution and in the state Constitution. Article 1, Section 10, federal Constitution. Article 1, Section 12, state Constitution. It says that no law can be made that will impair the obligations of a contract. You have a collective bargaining contract. Issues can be made, they have been made in other states, based upon a challenge on those two federal and state provisions, and they have been successful. States cannot impair the obligations of a contract that is in existence. This collective bargaining agreement, in my opinion, is still in existence. It was reopened. That doesn't mean it was terminated. If it was terminated on December 31st of 2010, somebody can explain to me, maybe our outside counsel could explain to me, what this termination language in 21.3 means. Why is this in there if you want to terminate the agreement? I think the agreement is still in effect. I think there are some legal challenges that have been made and they will be made. I don't know that I would go to the bank yet with all of these savings that are being purported. If this is challenged and if it is successful, and there is no guarantee that it will be successful, either in state court or in federal court, but if it is, and if the court says, make these people whole because you had no right to do this, then you go back to December of 2010 and you start counting. You start making them whole from that date forward. If you do what's being done here tonight, which is totally ignoring Act 10 and terminating this agreement because this contract, not the law, this contract says you can terminate it, then it would seem to me that somewhere down the road, if this law is ever challenged and voided and you are told to make people whole, you have capped your liability to July of 2011, to this date. That's the rationale for it.
Mr. Chairman, follow up. Then why isn't there a resolution for the other local whose contract is
You should be
expired?
getting those as they come due.
Pardon?
You should be getting those as they come due.
Okay.
This is the first of many.
And question answered.
And again, keep in mind, we are responding, as I trust many counties are responding, to what has transpired in Madison, and we're doing our best, I believe, as is Corporation Council administration, to understand what the issues are before us. So we recognize, I think, collectively that this is new ground. Doesn't make it any easier, but I'm going to caution that the advice of legal counsel to this body is something that you should consider seriously in making your decision this evening, on referral, on the issue, whatever it is. Anything else, Supervisor Frederick? Anything else? Let me get that mic off for you, Frank. Supervisor Singer, on the referral, issue referral. Yes or no? Yes. Go ahead.
On the referral, there's, you know, for this Act 10 that we're talking about, there's not even guidelines out yet on what we should do, and yet we're acting to notify our intent to cancel the contract, or we're canceling the contract, however double talk you're talking about. I fully expected to go, when I got the email from the chairman of finance, I fully expected that it would be on the agenda in tonight's meeting. He had plenty of time to do that. I specifically asked him for the agenda tonight. And what you see is what you get. It wasn't on there. And I was perplexed. And so I feel that it's an affront to our committee structure that it wasn't referred, or it wasn't put on the agenda in tonight's meeting so that we could actually act on it at the finance. We're held under the law. Obviously, people in Madison aren't, but we have to. We have to abide by the laws, and there's no guidelines out. I think we should refer this because there's a lot more questions to be asked. Okay, this has not been put in front of us. It's the first time. It wasn't even talked about at any of our previous finance committee meetings. You know, and you know, it needs to be referred. And so I was going to move it, but you wouldn't let me, so that's fine. Thank you.
You're done.
I'm done.
Hate to cut you off. Supervisor Allman, on the issue of referral. Yes or no? If you say yes, I'll turn it on. If not, I will. On the issue of referral? For crying out loud. Supervisor Hallman.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I beg your patience as I delve into this issue.
I'm trying.
I have a question for Mr. Riedel, if he could.
Mr. Riedel.
We brought him from vacation, and he's almost as tan as I am. It would be wrong to let him leave here without asking him a question.
It's better be on referral, Supervisor Hallman. Go ahead.
Mr. Riedel, can you give us a little bit of wisdom on this and exactly what this means? I mean, we've heard from Corporation Counsel, so I'm a bit curious as to what sort of other advice you can give us. What are the clarity?
What is the specific question on referral?
My question would be what the difference is between Resolution 37 and Policy Resolution 27, which will help me make my decision about the referral. Begging your pardon, Mr. Chairman.
With respect to this issue, there's virtually no difference.
There's no what?
Difference.
Thank you.
The resolution that was brought before Finance and Admin last Thursday night included the provision that Corporation Counsel discussed. It protects the county from any liability after tonight should any action taken against the change of benefit policies be victorious, and we would have to somehow make good on what has been determined to have hurt the employee. So the short answer to your question is we attempted to fold two actions into one. When it was determined that this needed two readings, we separated the actions, and you are performing one action tonight, and we'll perform the second on August 2nd.
Thank you.
I will not support the referral at this time. Thank you.
Supervisor Clark on referral. Easy.
I am opposed to the referral. This resolution says that it was submitted by the Finance Committee. First of all, the Finance Committee acted on the concept of termination. I agree, it is highly unusual. I asked the question of the Corporation Council in determining how we were going to bring this forward, whether it was going to be me or whether it was going to be the committee. I was told that the committee action, we could do this. So that's why it came forward this way. And if that's the opinion of the Corporation Council, that's how we proceeded. While I'll recognize supervisors cannot go to every meeting, I took the extraordinary measure to send an email to all the supervisors on that committee so they were aware of this issue. I don't have the email with me, the exact time, but it was sent out to them so they were aware of it. They could have called, they could have objected, they could have done numerous things, number one. Number two, the agenda for the Finance Committee, I believe, went out on Friday. So if we're coming to a meeting and looking at an agenda and noticing that something's not there, maybe we should look at our agenda earlier. I don't think we need to refer this. I think the Corporation Council has made the case to the financial peril that the county is putting itself in. I agree it's highly unusual, but I'm going to rely on the opinion of the attorney who represents us.
Thank you. Supervisor, Vice Chairman Eckerness on the issue of referral.
I am against referral. I believe that if you refer this, what you are in fact doing is extending this contract, a contract that could not be agreed to between union and administration for the past year or so. And I don't think that that's appropriate at this point. The contract is clear. We've got to take action tonight, and otherwise we have extended the contract, and that's not what we should be doing. Thank you.
Thank you. Supervisor Grulich on the referral.
Just got a question through corporate counsel, if I may, in regards to help me make up my mind. On December 31st, 2010, apparently there was a one-year extension, so therefore the current contract expires on December 31st of 2011, correct?
According to the language, yes.
So therefore, tonight, basically, no matter what we do, it will not be terminated until December 31st, 2011. Is that correct? Because the contract was extended for 1 year.
No, this says that you can file your notice of your desire to terminate at the July meeting.
Right, but the notice and desire to terminate, wouldn't that mean the current yearly contract?
That's not how I would interpret it. It would be that the contract is terminated immediately.
Okay, and then with that in mind, I'm going to be against the referral due to the fact that I believe we'll be violating state law if we let this go past the July meeting. Thank you.
Thank you, Supervisor Grulich. Supervisor Rose on referral.
I want to just address what Supervisor Singer said. I was at the meeting, and unfortunately you were not there, and had you been there, you would have recognized that the committee extensively talked about the very issue before us tonight. And I say the resolution should have been divided and more artfully put together, but they were not. But the issue is before us. And that's what's important here. And if you refer it back, there's nothing more that we need to discuss. There's nothing more that the Finance Committee can say. We have talked about the issue here. Now, I understand the opposition to Act 10. I understand the opposition to the current state. But that's the way it is. And like it or not, this resolution addresses the way things are, not the way perhaps some would like them to be. So that's the issue tonight. Let's get this behind us and let's move on with this agenda. We're spending well too much time on this point tonight, And it was part, look at 27. I urged you to look at that before. I hope you look at that. It talked about terminating the collective bargaining agreement. It's right there in black and white. Therefore, we talked about it. Vote it up or down and let's move ahead. Thank you.
Thank you. Supervisor Grady on referral.
Chairman, I'll speak on the referral. I think Mr. Riedel said it succinctly that basically this was intended to be done as a two-step in correspondence with policy resolution number 1, but it was not the best way to handle it. So I think in order to separate it, in order to pave the way for resolution 1, which we're all going to take a look at, policy resolution at a future meeting, this is being done to set the stage, to clear the boards, to make it so that it's done legitimately and it's done in a timely manner. So I think any attempt to procrastinate termination of this labor contract is not serving our best interest. That's my comment.
Thank you. Supervisor Singer on referral.
As you know, I'm for the referral to Supervisor Clark's agenda point that it was on the agenda. It wasn't on the agenda. I got the email from Supervisor Clark on July 19th saying that they screwed up basically and that they needed to separate the issues. And but it wasn't separated in committee. I guess it was just magically separated by I don't know who. I mean, this resolution says it's come from the committee, but then they say anybody can bring a resolution. Yeah, that's true, but it says Finance Committee right on the resolution.
And the explanation for that, if I may, is
Excuse
from
me,
Corporation
Chairman,
Counsel. They follow the advice of legal counsel.
If you want
to be clear.
Chairman, if you want to debate, then hand over the gavel to the Vice Chairman. You've done this constantly all
Clarifying
throughout
your incorrect
term.
point, Supervisor, is all I was doing. It was a point of information. I thought you...
Wasn't asked for.
Oh.
You know, this is just wrong, that the way it is. I mean, it was not acted upon. It needs to be acted upon in committee. It has to be referred. I believe that referral is the best use of it. Yes, will it put us in a situation where we may have to pay out a little bit? It might. But the unions were already here tonight saying that they were willing to work with most of the issues on that.
On referral, please.
What's important?
I don't want to debate the issues in the contract, on referral.
Because if we're saying we want to get rid of the contract, in the long run, I think we can get rid of it. And that's why it needs to be referred. We haven't voted on it at all, and it wasn't brought through the proper channels. I think it's wrong. I'm done.
Thank you.
Take a vote.
To be clear, I think your term was a screwed up or whatever. You couldn't be more correct. That is why this is before us, and before us the way it is. The mistaken assumption was that it did not need 2 readings. So again, point of clarification, you are correct. Somebody made a mistake. Believe it or not, we have staff in Kenosha County that occasionally make mistakes. This evening, I'll forgive them. Supervisor Brunig on the issue of referral.
I move the question of referral.
Second. Question moved by Supervisor Brunig, seconded by Supervisor Rose. On the issue of referral, I'll do a roll call. If you are in favor of a roll call, P and plus. If you're opposed, P and minus. I'm sorry. Yes. If you're in favor of closing debate, P and plus. If you're opposed, P and minus. You have plenty of time to change your vote. I'll give you a second. Yes, sir. Debate is closed. Before you now is the issue of referral. Let me clear the board. Debate is... I'll leave the board the way it is for right now. You are voting on the motion to refer the issue, and I'm going to refer it only to Finance and Administration. That was the referral that was made. The suggestion to a joint committee was mine, so we are staying with the original motion. refer to Finance and Administration.
Order. Okay. When I made the motion to refer it back to number 1, like the other ones. That was my motion. Not to refer it just to the Finance Committee. I made that specifically clear.
Well, it's not necessary to close debate when I was at the meeting and I could enlighten you as to the fact that we talked about this. I mean, this is not, I don't care. I didn't get to talk before, so I'll talk now.
All right, Corporation Counsel is indicating that he believes it can go to both committees, should use whatever semantics you want. So the issue before you is referral to Finance Administration and facilities, Public Works and Facilities. Roll call vote. P and plus, referral to both committees, P and minus if you're opposed. I'm sorry. Yes, on the referral. Motion fails. On the floor before you is Resolution 37. Anyone on the issue? I'm waiting for the board to clear. We're set? What's that? He's got 28 Celebrity's there. We had 28 votes, so we're all covered.
He gets to vote twice? What?
Everyone's all worried about you, Supervisor. You're fine. Your bulb's been dim for a while. Supervisor Rose.
I move the previous question.
Second.
Motion made by Supervisor Rose to close debate. He is first on the in line, by the way. Seconded by Supervisor Bruning. Trust roll call will be requested.
Yes.
Those in favor of closing debate, P and plus. Those opposed, P and minus.
It's not debatable. Point of order.
State your point.
If we act on this and it has immediate termination, the employees will be operating without any work rules. I hope we don't, that's.
P and plus, if you're in favor of closing debate, P and minus if you're opposed. Debate remains open, correct? 16-12. 2/3, so we do not have 2/3. All right. All right, debate is, the motion is still on the floor. Supervisor Elverman.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. You know, I'm going to have to vote for this thing tonight positively, and that is the most irritating thing I can think of tonight, to have to do that because somebody screwed up. And you said that does happen. It does happen. But on things like this, it should not happen. And we've known about this for a long time. The ability of our administration, and I'm not talking about the county executive when I say administration. I'm talking about the people that work for him, that run these sections of county government, to bring this to the Finance Committee at the last moment, make them look bad, make them have to come up with things that they know don't even sound right, and the rest of us have to sit here and stomach this, knowing that it's going to cost the taxpayer money if we don't do it this evening. Well, that really ticks me off. Somebody screwed up. I have to do this. It's 100 degrees today. I was laying 700-pound steps. I'm not in a good mood. I'd like to make a motion to change the now therefore be it resolved that the Kenosha County Board of Supervisors authorize and direct that a notice be given to Local 70 of its Saturday to terminate the collective bargaining agreement with AFSCME, AFL-CIO, Kenosha County Department Workers, Local 70, end of sentence. If the notice is all that we need.
Been moved by Supervisor Elverman to remove the words "with said termination to be effective immediately" at the end of the "now therefore be it resolved" paragraph. Seconded by Supervisor Clark, correct?
Yes.
On the issue.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. If the notice is all we need to do, then that takes care of it and still lets a handbook to be authorized and passed at our next meeting, leaves our workers with work rules, and from what I've been told tonight, that shouldn't make any difference to keep that out. So that's my motion, and I hope that everybody can get around the double talk.
That's been seconded by Clark already.
All right.
All right. At the risk yet again of the assumption that I'm steering this debate somehow, I'm going to ask Corporation Counsel to opine on that elimination of that paragraph. My rationale for doing it time and time again, so you're clear, is that our ability to support a decision on the board floor rests with our willingness to follow the advice of legal counsel. I've been told that since the day I got here. Corporation Counsel, on the elimination of the language as moved by Supervisor Elverman.
I believe that if you take that out, you're making it ambiguous as to the termination date. I think that if you leave it in there, there's no doubt that it's effective immediately. There's a lot of ambiguity in the contract, there's a lot of ambiguity in the law, and I think if you have an opportunity to not be ambiguous, my recommendation would be to not be ambiguous. I don't believe that that will affect the ability of this county, either through the administration or this board, to work on a policy. If this had terminated without there being an Act 10, if we had just instituted this termination clause 10 years ago, we would have still continued to negotiate. All we would have done is said that we're not going back to January of that year to pay. We won't go retroactive. And that's all that you're trying to do here today. You can enact, you can sit down with these people, hear what their gripes are, what their suggestions are, what their observations are, and you can come back with some policy. This is not meant to be confrontational with the union. This is meant strictly as an opportunity to try to cap any potential liability somewhere down the road. That's all it's intended to do.
Again, debate the issue up, down, vote on it. My intention is to make sure you understand where your legal advice rests. Supervisor Gail Gentz.
I have a question about the language, and if you deleted the language, you took out effective immediately, and you put in the language effective the date the policy rules are passed, would that be proper notice?
So it would state, Kenosha Highway Workers Local 70, effective the date the policy.
The policy rules are passed by Kenosha, by the county board, or however you want to state the language.
If you think that that's going to happen in the next 2 weeks or next 3 weeks, and that just extends the termination of those 3 weeks, I don't see a problem with that.
Well, I can't exactly ask for a show of hands, Frank, if that's going to work.
No, I don't. Again, you're either going to be ambiguous or you're going to be, straightforward. If they don't adopt the policy, if it keeps getting referred, and that's happened many times in the past, you could extend that out to December.
Understood.
Just as clarification, I think that what was stated tonight in the comments, citizens' comments, was I think that the biggest concern that the workers have is that if we pass this tonight that they're going to be without any work rules.
That would have happened 10 years ago. If we would have passed this in January of 1990, and I'm sorry, in July of 1990, there wouldn't be a contract at that point. There wouldn't be any work rules. There wouldn't be anything. What would you do? You would still sit down with those people and you would negotiate a contract.
I understand.
You would probably continue, but not because you had to, but because you wanted to.
Supervisor Gens.
Well, I guess I would ask, I can't make a motion because we have a motion on the floor, but if they would be willing to amend the motion to take the language effective.
I'm hearing from both the maker of the motion and the second of the motion that they would accept your language in lieu of what they propose. So.
Okay, then I move to.
And there's no need to make that motion.
Okay.
So before you, where it currently states, with said termination to be effective immediately, it will now say, until, go ahead and read what you
effective
stated.
the date the policy rules are passed by the county board.
Effective the date the policy rules are passed by the county board.
Yes.
Point of inquiry, Mr. Chairman.
State your point.
To the Corporation Council, how is that different than resolution number 27?
Supervisor Rose, you keep saying 27.
It's 37.
Do you mean 37?
All right, one.
Oh, you're referring to one.
Okay. I'm looking at the...
I understand. I just want to make sure that we...
Resolution number 1. How is that different than resolution number 1? It seems to me the same thing.
1 is a policy resolution which requires 2 readings. You're talking about policies, and the idea is to give county board members a longer period of time to study the proposal because of its import and because of the fact that it's intended to last for a long period of time, even beyond the term of this board. This resolution requires that you act on it tonight. What you're talking about, or what Supervisor Gens is talking about, is putting a different date on there than immediately.
Well, I understand what you're saying, but what she's got through saying was that it really doesn't go into effect until we adopt those policies. And what does policy resolution number 1 say? It says that we're adopting those policies, that we're giving the notice as required by the contract. It's the same thing.
Right.
So there's no point to then acting on this resolution this evening because it is really repetitive of number 1.
But number 1 is not on the agenda this evening.
Number 1 is not being acted on tonight. That's the only difference.
All right. At the advice of Corp Counsel, I'm going to ask through the, I guess, the 3 makers of the motion. Effective the date the policy rules are passed by the county board, Corp Counsel is recommending, but no later than a specific date.
Can you shut my mic off so I can get in line?
Query, Mr. Chairman, of the Corporation Council.
So if the makers of the motion are amenable to that, Supervisor Clark.
I just have a question. Does the county executive have the authority to execute emergency rules if the contract were terminated to adopt temporary work rules until the county board acted on them by executive order?
He does have the ability to enact emergency measures. I don't believe this has ever been addressed by the board with respect to labor issues. It's never come up before. It's usually been because of a flood or a storm or something like that.
So if the contract were terminated and we had a date certain and it wasn't adopted by the county board and we're sitting out in no man land, I want to know whether the executive has the power or the authority to institute temporary work rules until this county board acts, yes or no?
No, unless you give it to him tonight, if you want to add that to the resolution.
It's getting late.
let me.
All right, so
speak.
I'm going to Supervisor Gail Gens.
I suggest if we need to put an end date on it, that we used August 31st.
I was just about to say the same thing. Is that amenable to the makers of the motion? Yes. I see a yes to that. So the motion made by Supervisor Elverman, seconded by Supervisor Clark, with the assistance of Supervisor Gail Gens, will now read, after the number 70 in the last paragraph, effective the date the policy rules are passed by the county board, but no later than August 31st, 2011. That is the issue before you for debate now, is resolution number 37 as amended, as just read. Anything else, Supervisor Gens? No. Supervisor Singer.
On the amendment, we must be on the same wavelength here. I had just already written it down to be effective until the passage of the policy resolution number 1. It makes it unambiguous, like our corporation council was concerned about, and didn't have the drop dead date as far as that, because I think we're gonna take care of this before the end of August anyway. But I could support that. This is the kind of stuff that I wish we could have talked about in committee, so that we would get this all taken care of and iron it out instead of doing it on the board floor. But I will support it then. I will vote on it if that is the case.
You don't know how cooperation warms my heart. Supervisor Elverman.
No, thank you.
Almost as much as that warms my heart. Supervisor Jeff Gens.
Through the chair to our corporation council, now the definition you gave me when I asked for my point of clarification before when we were talking about it, you said that it was ambiguous, and if we don't have something by the end of this month, they can, through the courts, extend it a year. Now, with this language in there, a simple yes or no, is the ambiguous, yeah, whatever they said, is that gone? I mean, I want to know. Since, yes. Excellent. Excellent. That's all I need.
Things are looking up. Supervisor Decker.
Thank you, guys, for being there for me.
Question. The way we have it amended right now removes the with said termination to be effective immediately. That entire clause, correct?
Correct.
Does that change the definition of the beginning of the therefore be it resolved because we removed the words with said termination to be effective?
Tell me again which sentence you're questioning whether or not it's affected?
That the supervisors authorize and direct that a notice be given to the local 70 of its desire to terminate the collective bargaining.
All right, Frank, the question that's being asked
Because
is...
if you take out those words, it changes the meaning of the whole therefore be it resolved, depending upon which words you leave in and take out, at least under my interpretation.
The question is, it states that supervisor authorizing and directing that a notice be given of its desire to terminate the collective bargaining agreement. I mean, it would seem to me we're going to give notice, and instead of the notice saying termination to be effective immediately, the notice is going to say effective the date, et cetera, et cetera. So,
right, exactly.
So I don't believe
okay,
Corp Council's agreeing.
Thank you.
Thank you. Supervisor Joe Clark.
I have to share the sentiments of Supervisor Elverman. I got to tell you, I'm a little irritated, and to go on the line and say I'm mad as hell, because this came to our committee. I can't even recall the days anymore. And then we find out that it has to be 2 readings. Then we're talking about suspending the rules. And what's really irritating here, and I come out here and I present this to the, I get this, I present this to the county board and say, we are giving notice of our, what's the word? Of our desire to modify and terminate the contract. I came from my job in the middle of the day, came down because I had all these calls to meet with Diane Lighting, chased the Corporation Counsel down, we got you on the phone, and specifically, I didn't get hung up on the word, but it got down to give written notice of our desire. Nowhere in that conversation did we say terminate immediately. And we get into this crazy debate. And that comes down to the administration. I asked the specific question, and we've been beating a dead horse for over a half an hour to 45 minutes on termination. The other day I was told the desire to modify or terminate met the requirement if we did that in July. We didn't talk about terminating. We didn't talk about going without work rules. This should not have happened tonight. Should not have happened because it should have came to the committee and been known when we were trying to clean it up, or as I'll say, I feel like we're making sausage. I asked that specific question. Then I get the resolution here tonight, and I briefly cruise it, understanding that we're talking about desire and giving notice, or desire to terminate and giving notice. And then Supervisor Michael looks at the bottom line and says, hey, this says terminate immediately. There's a contradiction. I'm very troubled when I ask the question when we're trying to put this together, trying to keep the county board and the committees in the loop. It's very disappointing. We need to do this tonight. There are financial reasons to do it. It appears that, based on my conversation Friday, by giving notice of our desire was good enough. Now, at least we're setting a certain date that we're hopefully capping our liability. That's all I have to say.
Thank you. Supervisor Grulich.
I just want to bring this up one more time just to double clarify to Corporate Counsel through the Chair, if I may ask. Currently, the contract expires 12/31/11, correct?
Yes.
Pardon me?
That's the last day of the term of the contract.
Okay, so that would be the last date. Therefore, we need to give them notice this month in order for that to be the effective termination date.
No. The language in the contract says it's automatically renewed for periods of 1 year. It becomes effective January 1st of '08. It remains in effect through December of 2010, and it's automatically renewed for periods of 1 year. And then you got that big word, unless. Unless. Let me repeat it again. Unless either party serves upon the other a written notice of its desire to terminate.
And we're serving a written notice of its desire to terminate, and that would be effective at the end of the contract.
No, it's effective immediately, or in this case, we're putting a date on it. A date that does not go out until December of next year or March of next year.
Okay, no further questions, thank you.
No further lights. Before you is Resolution 37 as amended. And the amendment removes the words "with said termination to be effective immediately" and inserts effective the date the policy rules are passed by the county board, but no later than August 31st, 2011. Yes, sir.
We're voting on the amendment. Just not the entire resolution, but just on the amendment as proposed.
As I said, Resolution 37 as amended. Correct.
We have to vote
I'm sorry. I see what you're asking me.
Thank
you. Yes.
Thank you.
All right. Thank you. P and plus on the amendment. Or P and minus on the amendment. Amendment passes 27-1. We are now back on the resolution as amended. Anyone wishing to continue that debate? Supervisor Zerban.
Thank you, Chairman Molinaro. I'm not inclined to support this, and I'll tell you why. Corporation Counsel has stated that this is strictly to limit our liability due to a change in the law that may or may not be legal by Madison's actions and will be challenged. Partially, I'm not supporting this because I don't agree with the policy resolution number 1 that has come before us. I don't agree with the policies as are written. I fear for our employees with its implementation. So if I did understand Corporation Counsel's comments correctly, he said that if we do not take action on this, we do not serve notice to terminate, the contract would stay in place as is. And if I understand correctly again, what you said was the state cannot pass laws that impede upon a current contract that is in place, which would be this. Is that not correct?
State and federal constitutions state that the legislature cannot pass a law to impair the obligations of a contract.
So that means if we have a contract that's in place and it gets renewed by its own terms, then it's legal. Again, you said earlier this was strictly to limit the liability of the county if something were to change. And frankly, our employees, if they are due money because of a law that was passed illegally by Madison, I think they're entitled to the money. So that is why I'm not supporting this, and I hope that you all will vote it down. Thank you.
Thank you. Supervisor Arrington, yes.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I'm going to have to agree with Supervisor Zerban. I've listened to this entire thing tonight. I sat here, I digested it. There's some things on here. I never see our resolutions come like this. You've got people that serve on the Finance Committee say that, you know, they weren't notified, they receive emails, and I understand that maybe we did not communicate very well on this. The bottom line for me is that, you know, I'm a part of the Kenosha County Board. I do not have a desire to terminate their collective bargaining agreement with any of the employees. If they have money that is due to them, they should get it. I'm not going to support it. I've never supported the whole issue of what we've had going on in Madison in the first place. So I hope my constituents understand where I'm coming from. If they need to speak with me about it, they can call me and they can speak with me about it, because the way I feel like that by me not supporting the collective bargaining effort is me supporting you keeping the rights that you have on your job. Thank you.
Thank you. Supervisor Haas.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I have some comments. You know, we're dealing with people's lives here. I mean, if we don't vote this down tonight, I feel we should give them another year. I mean, Madison's the one that did this. You know, our governor up there, he pushed this through. I think he has a hard time dealing with unions, especially the teachers and their insurance, and it's a trickle-down theory. These people work out there, they're dedicated employees, they're not asking for the world. They're just, like even tonight, they come and they said, hey, we just want some decent language, you know, to help the citizens and stuff. I'm out there, I seen them today, they was paving all day long. I didn't see one of them sitting underneath a tree or anything. The flaggers was out there all day. I mean, let's give them some respect. You know, this is what our country was made of. You know, if they didn't throw the tea in a Boston Harbor, I don't know where we'd be right now. You know, let's extend it for another year, show them some dignity and some support and everything else. If we pass this tonight, it's like taking everything away from them. Their seniority, they could be fired tomorrow if the county exec felt like it. You know, I feel that we should, you know, give them another year. You know, let's take a stance on this. You know, it's not, we're not dealing with a big union here that's bankrupting Kenosha County. To extend this for another year won't hurt, and then they can keep bargaining, and they can keep, or the county can keep, you know, saying, hey, this is what we want out of you, and let them bargain like we was grown up to be, and the way that the country was made of. That's all I have to say. Thank you.
Thank you. Supervisor O'Day.
Through the chair, thank you. To the Corporation Council, two things I have a question on is that
this one, there's a time frame involved with this particular issue that we have. The other thing is, how many more of the similar issues of this kind are we going to have to face at other county board meetings in the future?
I believe that there is similar language. I know I personally checked, and there is similar language in at least 4 or 5 of the other contracts. And I did not check the others, but my guess would be that there is something similar in all of the contracts.
So this is the first time, and we're dealing with this. We're going to have to keep dealing with these kind of issues down the road. Different dates.
I would have to look at those contracts, but I don't think that you may be able to handle those with one resolution and just say, this contract is going to expire. We intend to that this contract expire on such and such a date, this contract on such and such a date, etc. Maybe there's a faster way to do that so you don't have to go through this.
I'm ready to vote. Thank you.
Supervisor O'Day. I'm sorry, Singer.
Thank you, Chairman. I'm kind of torn between it because I agree with what Supervisor Zerban has indicated and the other supervisors supporting that position, and I do support the contract for them. However, in the testimony tonight, Nick, he's the lawyer for the union. They realize they're going to have to give it up. They're not fighting the fact that they're not planning on keeping the contract. Put it that way. Okay? They know that the contract's on its way out. That's not the issue. They want to get down to brass tacks and do some of the things that are positive. So rather than make this a fight between whether we keep the contract for a year or try to save the position of the liability of the county, which I'm torn. We got to do that. I mean, it is a financial issue, and that's why I'm going to support it tonight. At this point, with the change in the resolution that we've indicated with the amendment. So, but I am torn. Yeah, this could be a way to backdoor into a year by not passing this thing. But we are going to have to face this, and I'm a realist, fiscal conservative, and we do need to do something. We have to give the county exec some working latitude, but we really need to sit down and talk about these policies, not just ramrod them through. We have to address them, work with the unions on what will work, because I tell you, it's not just policy resolution 1. It's number 2. I talked to the sheriff's department, and they're all up in arms about it. They were at the meeting apparently, so I wanted to find out what was going on. Monday morning, I was on the phone talking to everybody, trying to find out what was really going on at that meeting, because I heard all sorts of different stories. And we got to work this out. We can't antagonize the employees. Yeah, we might be in a point where the economy's bad, okay? But we have also been at a point where the economy was good and we had a hard time getting employees. We have to recognize the employees and for what they are, and I agree with Supervisor Haas. They're very important to us, And like Mr. Kazmaier said tonight, they're taking it on the chin for quite a few things, They're taking WRS, they're taking a lot of other things. It's coming out of their pockets, guys. And you know what? When the economy gets better, these are high-stress jobs. If we don't work with them and try to find some middle ground here to work things out right, we're going to be losing employees again, and our overtime's just going to go crazy. And we shouldn't be there. We should be working with them in solving the problems, not just come, at a meeting like this, we need to work on them. We need to bring it to committee. We need to listen to the unions. We need to listen to the administration in those departments. They're the ones that have to run it. And I applaud the vice chairman for making that change for the jailers. But why are jailers any different? Why are highway people any different than the jailers? I think we should have a uniform type work rules for all of us. That's what we're working on, and that'll be, apparently from what I heard, is going to be next year. Okay? So this is a stopgap on a financial issue. The unions realize it's coming, but in the next month, we've got to work with them and take these policy resolutions and really make them work to the benefit of everybody. Okay? And so if we do that, then I'm not torn. We're actually doing the right thing. Okay? Just because we can stick it to, just because we can rape and pillage the workers doesn't mean we should. Okay? We shouldn't do that. Okay? So let's work together, get this done in a manner that works for all of us. Thank you.
That was close. No, the statement was very close. If you had been at the debate, it was very good discussion. Nobody was out of line, as I thought you may have been suggesting. Supervisor Grady.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I think it's been stated here on the county board floor that there's been quite a bit of dissatisfaction the way that 37 was presented here, and I couldn't agree more. It kind of came in at a late time, separated from the original issue, and no one's happy with that. I mean, that's obvious. But when you strip it all down to what this really is saying, this is a housekeeping issue. It's a housekeeping issue to dissolve one contract so we can move on at our next meeting or subsequent meeting to really get to the heart of the matter, which is policy resolution number 1, which will delineate exactly what the work rules are. That is a debate we can all join in. People can make the presentation. Is it fair to the workers? Is it not fair to the workers? And that will be the appropriate time. But right now, we're just trying to get past 37, get through this, do the housekeeping, and call it a night. So I will support 37.
Thank you. Supervisor Noble.
Thank you. My question is, I understand that both of these are contracts that are expired. Why, for resolution number 28, which I have in my packet, which is now resolution number 2, policy resolution number 2, why does that one not have this July requirement as Highway and Parks has?
Corp Counsel can address that.
I was told, I don't remember looking at that one specifically, but I was told that there's a different date in that one. September.
Oh, that one had a date of September?
I'm
So
sorry.
in other words, instead of in the language which is similar to this, it said September
Yes,
instead
right.
of July?
Right.
Okay, thank you.
Anything else? Supervisor Clark.
We have the ability, and I've said this in committee, because we have the right to do something, doesn't mean we need to. It's a good thing that we have this second reading, and it allows the employees more opportunity to have their input, their concern. We can, when we adopt that policy, we can change the rules however this county board desires. So don't vote against this because you think you're extending the contract. Let's deal with reality. This Local 70 has been going on since June of last year and before. They've been negotiating. I remember trying to have a special meeting, lining up a special finance meeting to pass what the administration thought was agreed upon. I certainly can tell you, I'll bet they wish they adopted the last contract that was put out to them earlier this year, and it was mailed out to all of us and all the employees. It sure looks a lot better than what they're getting right now. We have the ability to change that when we look at this policy. The policy is the end game. It's the temporary end game. It's a temporary measure. The intention with the policy is to get something temporarily in place so there are rules. We're going to be addressing more of those final policies that are going to affect longer term issues throughout the remainder of this year to be effective January 1st. When we had the committee meeting, unfortunately, Nick Casimir, their representative, they just got the information and saw it at the committee meeting. But we allowed him to sit at the table and at least give him a say. We afforded them that responsibility. We tried to make it at least open to get his first blush. I find it, and then I will tell you through the negotiating process, I've reached out to the leadership of Highway 70. I've talked to employees. I told them to have their leadership call me. I've actually called their leadership and left a message. You know how many phone calls I got back? None. Trying to help them get to a contract, trying to mediate, trying to figure out what they wanted. 0 phone calls. And I just find it interesting. Throughout this debate, we're not here, we're not at a meeting. Send out emails trying to communicate what's going on. And now we're calling county employees to figure out what the hell's going on and not talk to at least another committee member. Not one committee member. What happened at the meeting? If you can't make a meeting and you want to know what's going on, at least call the committee. Call the other employees, but call the committee. If you can't make a meeting and you have a concern and there's something on the agenda, call the supervisors who's on the committee or call somebody and have your thoughts be there. You can't make every meeting. I understand that, but let's work together. Let's not work against each other. Thank you.
Thank you. Seeing no other lights. Before you is resolution number 37 as amended. Do I need to repeat the amendment? Roll call requested. P and plus if you're in favor of resolution 37 as amended, P and minus if you're opposed. Motion carries 22-6. Clerk.
Resolution 27 from Finance Administration Committee, a resolution awarding the sale of $2,810,000 general obligation county building bond series 2011B, submitted by Finance Administration Clark, yes. O'Day, yes. Jeff Gens, yes. Ackernitz, yes. Rose, yes. Singer, yes. Grady, yes.
Mr. Riedel, I trust you'll drive carefully tonight? I trust you'll drive carefully tonight? 27, moved by Supervisor Clark.
Mr. Chairman, I move Resolution 27, and I would ask that we, if it's appropriate, that we act on 28 at the same time.
Clerk. Is it appropriate? Pardon me? Is it appropriate? It's appropriate, yes it is.
Resolution 28.
Apparently, it's not appropriate. We're being told by our bond counsel it's not. Would you like, you've moved 27, seconded by O'Day. Supervisor Clark.
Thank you. Our process of issuing debt is we have an adoption in the budget. There's a resolution at the time of the budget that requires a 3/4 vote. Then we have a resolution to go to market, and finally we have a resolution to award the sale. We went to market and received the bids back today, and we got some very good news. On the $2,810,000 bonds, that is for the courthouse project. The courthouse and the Molinaro building, the exterior. Those are 10-year bonds. No, those are the 20-year bonds. And the rate that came back on those was 3.89%. When we did our budgeting for this, we planned on 5.75%. Again, that's where our strong financial position comes into play, allows us to maintain our rating and get better rates. This, I can't recall the number, but we saved, I think, over $700,000 just on interest rate savings alone. I'm going to jump into the other one, and then we can act on them separately. The other resolution is the $10 million. That went to market. We bid, that's a 10-year note. We budgeted 5%, it came in at 2.49%. The savings over the life of the bond is $1.6 million. The impact of getting a better interest rate and having favorable market conditions and making the decision to go to market now, I have to give credit to the administration, Dave Gertson and Mr. Harrigan, for recognizing the situation. There have been significant moves in the market as it relates to interest, and I think we've been very fortunate to hit the right time. As a result of coming in with better rates, we will save over $300,000 from what we projected in next year's budget for debt service. Finally, on one of the issues, the $10 million issue, it was sold at a premium, so the county actually got more money. And there's which means that at the end of the day, we're going to have $107,000 of additional capital dollars that we can use to reduce next year's capital borrowing or use for unforeseen capital expenditures within this project, provided we approve that. So I urge your unanimous support, approval, and I would ask if there are any questions or Mr. Harrigan would like to add anything, that you'll afford him the ability to do that.
Thank you. Before you is Resolution 27. Any debate on 27? Further comment from Mr. Harrigan and or Mr. Gertson? Nothing? Anyone on the issue? Seeing none?
Roll call.
Roll call vote. P and plus if you're in favor of 27. Resolution 27. P and minus if you're opposed. Motion carries 28-0.
Resolution 28 from Finance Administration Committee, a resolution awarding the sale of $10,030,000 general obligation promissory notes series 2011A. From Finance Committee, if I missed streets. Clark, yes. O'Day, yes. Gentz, yes. Eckerness, yes. Rose, yes. Singer, yes. Grady, yes.
Supervisor Clark.
I move Resolution 28.
Resolution 28 moved by Clark, seconded by Grady. Supervisor Clark, anything else to add?
No.
Anyone on Resolution 28? Mr. Gertson, Mr. Harrigan, any comments? Seeing none. No lights. Roll call vote. Those in favor of Resolution 28, P and plus. Those opposed, P and minus. Motion carries 28-0. Clerk.
Resolution 29 from Finance Administration Committee, a resolution relating to the Kenosha County's participation in the Wisconsin Community Development Block Grant for Economic Development Program. Clark, yes. O'Day, yes. Jeff Gentz, yes. Eckerness, yes. Rose, yes. Singer, excused. Grady, excused.
Supervisor Clark.
I move Resolution 29.
Resolution 29 moved by Supervisor Clark, seconded by Vice Chairman Eckerness. Supervisor Clark.
I just want to also point out, I just noticed that the agenda references, they're off by 2. It references it as Resolution 29 on the agenda, and the resolution in front of us says 31, and it's been happening on these last couple of resolutions because we jockeyed things around. So
that was clarified in an amendment that was sent out by the clerk's office. We know the numbers are off.
Okay.
They will be clarified when the resolutions are published.
This is Kenosha County is required to authorize our development arm, Kenosha Area Business Alliance, to apply for a Wisconsin Community Development Block Grant. We are authorizing CABA to apply for this grant, and we are giving the approval as required by the grant.
All right, sorry about that. I am going to pass the gavel on this issue to the Vice Chairman. Seeing no light. There's no lights on the board.
Okay. Are we ready to vote? Yeah. Okay. All in favor, P and plus? Opposed, P and minus. 27 to 1. It's passed.
Yes. All right. Clerk, Resolution 30.
From Finance Administration Committee regarding 2012 Kenosha County Budget Advisory Levy. Hang on one second here. Submitted by Clark, yes. O'Day, yes. Jeff Gens, no. Eckerness, yes. Rose, yes. Singer excused. Grady excused.
Supervisor Clark.
I move Resolution 30.
Resolution 30, moved by Supervisor Clark, seconded by Supervisor Rose. Can't read my own writing. Supervisor Clark.
Annually in June, typically we adopt a advisory budget or levy resolution. We pushed it back so we could address an income maintenance number. On the analysis, a couple pages in, there's the possibility that we're going to lose $2.5 million in funding from income maintenance. The impact of the state budget is about $2.3 million on Kenosha County, assuming that we're going to lose all of that $2.5 million on income maintenance. Previously, we got $4 million on income maintenance. The state has told us we're only going to get $1.5 million. They're cutting the, in that analysis, they're cutting $2.5 million of revenue. I'm unsure whether there's corresponding expenses to go with it to offset that. So in the worst case, we're just looking at losing $2.5 million in revenue. The administration came in and did an analysis that if we adopted a 3% levy resolution, and according to their calculations and the budget limitations by the state, we could go up to about 3.85%. That may have been tweaked down a little bit. We're allowed to adopt, it's typically a freeze. We're allowed to then adopt for debt that existed in 2005 or that was adopted in 2005. The amount of the debt lift in Kenosha County on the budget impact or the levy is about 1%. To come in at a 3%, the administration would have to come up with about $1.6, $1.7 million in cuts. The one cut, or the tool as they call it, that we received from the budget bill was the Wisconsin retirement system. That has been factored in already into that 3% number. What hasn't been factored in are situations like overtime rules, work rules, some of those things that we're talking about. So the administration represented to us that they believe that they can come in and make $1.6 million in cuts without materially affecting or impacting county services. $1.6 million in cuts or revenue enhancements. We already know that our sales tax situation is getting a little bit better. So they feel very comfortable. The committee decided, because we have this unknown on the $2.5 million loss of the income maintenance, if we adopt 3% or 2.5%, and they come in and say, well, you're going to get the $4 million, you're not going to get the $1.5 million, we don't know what the probability of that is. It's very possible we could have an $800,000 surplus and not have to cut anything. The feeling of the committee or the vote of the committee was, well, if you're telling us that you can comfortably, maybe not comfortably is the right word, but you can find $1.6 million, we want you to find $1.6 million. We came in and we adopted a levy cap resolution, or a cap of 2.5%, and we indexed the reduction of that levy cap not to go below a floor of 1.5%. I talked about the million or the 1% because of the debt. So if we get more of that income maintenance number, we're looking at the levy cap number or the levy amount to come down proportionately, but not fall below 1.5%. And that is very attainable if we get favorable news on the income maintenance. So we don't know for sure. The administration said 1.6. We're pushing that up to about 1.9. So I hope I explained the rationale of the committee. We have a big unknown out there relative to income maintenance. If it breaks our way, the levy could go down to 1.5, and the Finance Administration Committee said, if you're telling me you can find 1.6 million, then you got to find it. I urge your approval. Thank you.
Thank you. Supervisor Ron Frederick.
Yes, Mr. Chairman. You know, I've been watching the state budget process and all this money that the state is going to save by balancing their budget. Evidently, they've balanced it on our backs, okay? Now, I did some checking, and of course, in your report earlier tonight, Joe, you had $536,000 that the county's going to be saving on the early payout that people have to start paying their pension starting in, I guess, next month or sometime. And then the next year's got another $1.5 million that our employees are going to be paying out of their pocket. Okay, so there's $536 this year and $1.5 million next year. And all of our employees have taken no increases for, I guess, 2 or 3 years now. And we're sitting here saying that we still have to raise the county levy. I think we should shoot for 0. I'm not going to support 2.5% or 1.5%. I will not support 1 penny more than we're spending this year. Thank you.
Thank you. Supervisor Grady.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I'll be supporting the 2.5% levy cap. I think it's a good policy. It was started several years ago, and it's really put us as county supervisors as an advisory thing that gets legislated. We can have a handle on how much the citizens are being taxed. But just through the chair to Supervisor Clark, can you tell us, just for the elucidation of the board here, what compromises income maintenance?
Supervisor Clark. Something you can answer?
Well, from what I know about it, and we're going to have a meeting with Lori Staves from Human Services later, there are certain programs that the courts can order, take a juvenile into placement, but there are other programs that we can do, and it applied. We had the ability to get that funded by drawdown. Some of it covered. There's a small amount of overhead, but there were other contracts that we were able to put out there that had to do with prevention, youth prevention of getting into trouble. That is my best understanding, that there are various different programs that we can offer at the county, and we've been able to get that paid through from federal dollars passing through the state to us. The state is now looking at that and saying, no, we think maybe that's our money and not your money, and we're going to be addressed with, the way that's budgeted here, still providing those services and coming down $2.5 million. And I would also defer that question to, I don't know if Dave Geertsen is still here, if he has any other thing he'd like to add relative to income maintenance.
Mr. Geertsen?
I think that was a good explanation we heard from Chairman of Finance. There's alternative programs we're able to fund with federal pass-through money, as he described. The state is examining what we've been doing for the last couple of decades. It's been audited for 20 years. We've got legal opinions. Federal officials said it's allowed, but the current state administration wants to examine this. These programs help us reduce our placement costs. They're alternatives. So if we don't have those alternatives, you pay on one hand or the other. If you don't have these alternatives, then you could end up instead paying through the placement budget. So, but I think the explanation was good, and I would just add that additional information.
Thank you. Anything else, Supervisor Clark?
No.
Supervisor Grady?
So just to follow up, really this is through Human Services, Department of Human Services, largely is where income maintenance resides. Is that the short answer? Yes. Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else on the question? I see no lights. Roll call vote is requested. P and plus if you're in favor of Resolution 30. Resolution 30, P and minus if you're opposed. Motion carries 22-6.
Resolution 31 from Finance Administration, a resolution to authorize sale and transfer of county tax deeded properties to the Village of Paddock Lake. Submitted by Administration Finance. Clark, yes. O'Day, yes. Jeffkens, yes. Eckerness, yes. Rose, yes. Singer, excused. Grady, excused.
Busy month, Supervisor Clark.
Yes, we had a late meeting. I move Resolution 33.
Resolution
Or 31, I think it's called
31,
now.
moved by Clark, seconded by O'Day. Supervisor Clark.
Okay, this resolution transfers a tax deeded property to the Village of Paddock Lake. This property is pretty much unusable. I think it has some wetlands in it, can't be built on. There's a cost to the county to hold the property because we have to mow it and maintain it. The village said that they would take it over and use it as green space. There's a deed restriction as to what they can do with the property. So we're really getting a worthless asset off our books and getting rid of a cash drain. So I urge your approval.
Thank you. Anyone on Resolution 31? Seeing no lights. Those in favor signify by saying aye. Those opposed, motion carries.
Resolution 32 from Judiciary and Law and Finance Administration Committees regarding F-111 Enforcement Justice Assistant Grant. Judiciary and Law, Michael, yes. Haas, yes. Ron Johnson, yes. Singer, excused. Ron Frederick, yes. Grulich, yes. Zerban, yes. Finance Administration, Clark, yes. O'Day, yes. Jeffkens, yes. Eckerness, yes. Rose, yes. Singer, excused. Grady, excused.
Supervisor Michael.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I move resolution number 32.
Resolution 32, moved by Supervisor Michael, seconded by Supervisor Clark. Supervisor Michael.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. This is a resolution to accept $18,870 from the Justice Assistant Grant. This money is to be used by law enforcement and is the county share of a larger grant that was awarded to Kenosha, the police department, which was the total award was $47,177. This money will be used to purchase duty gear, safety equipment for the Marine unit, flashlights for the patrol division, and automatic electronic defibrillators for the patrol division. It increases our revenues by $18,870 and increases our expenditures by $18,870. I urge your support. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone on the issue? Seeing no lights, all those in favor of Resolution 32 signify by saying aye. Those opposed, motion carries.
Resolution 33 from Judiciary and Law Committee regarding activity control license for Shadow Hill Ranch. Michael, yes. Haas, yes. Ron Johnson, yes. Singer, excused. Ron Frederick, yes. John Grulich, yes. Zerban, yes.
Point of order, Mr. Chairman.
State
I
your
think
point.
that last resolution is a budget modification requiring a roll call vote.
I'm sorry, you're right. All right, we will back up to 32. My mistake.
All right.
Favor P and plus, opposed P and minus. Resolution 32. Motion carries 28-0. Supervisor Michael on Resolution 33.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I move resolution number 33.
Resolution 33 moved by Michael, seconded by Haas. Supervisor Michael.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. The Shadow Hill Ranch, also known for the Country Thunder, is requesting another activity control license. This is for August 13th, 2011. They're having another function. It's a scaled-down version of Country Thunder. As stated within the reports, they won't be using any overnight campground that will be used for parking. I urge your support for this resolution.
Anyone on the question? So you're stating that they have eliminated the overnight camping?
Excuse me? Country Thunder has the overnight. This does not. This
Gotcha.
event does not, excuse me.
Gotcha. I'm sorry. Okay. Anyone on the question? Seeing no lights. Those in favor of Resolution 33 signify by saying aye. Those opposed, motion carries.
Resolution 34 from Planning, Development, and Extension Education Committee regarding request to approve the reappointment of Kenneth Kasabowski to serve on the Kenosha County Board of Adjustments. Brunig, yes. Esposito excused. Colmeyer excused. Underhill excused.
Supervisor, regarding the resolution, if you look at it, it says activity control license, and it has Shadow Hill Ranch, and that is a complete typo. It should be Shadow. And I don't know if that would be, I mean, it's...
I'm good with it.
I know it's late, but I just want to make sure that everybody knows.
I think we'll,
Oh, Shaw now.
the correct, well, it's been many years in the works here. I think we'll adequately cover that one.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Resolution 34 submitted from Brunig, yes. Esposito excused. Colmeyer excused. Underhill excused. Decker, yes. Hallman, yes. Gable, yes.
I would ask that 34 and 35 be read and acted on together if we can.
35 from Planning, Development, and Extension Education Committee regarding request to approve the reappointment of Ron Johnson to the Kenosha County Housing Authority.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I move Resolution 34 and 35.
Okay, as soon as the clerk's done.
Oh.
Brunig, yes. Esposito excused. Colmeyer excused. Underhill excused. Decker, yes. Hallman, yes. Gable, yes.
And now Supervisor Bruning.
I move Resolution 34 and 35.
Resolution 34 and 35 moved by Brunig, seconded by Supervisor Decker. Supervisor Brunig.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Both of these are reappointments to Kenneth Kozakowski is a reappointment to the Kenosha County Board of Adjustments. He has served well on this, and we ask for your support. Supervisor Ron Johnson, as you all know, is being reappointed to the Kenosha County Housing Authority Board, and we ask for your appointment and your support on this also. Thank you.
Thank you. Seeing no lights, those in favor of 34 and 35 signify by saying aye. Aye. Those opposed, both motions carry.
Resolution 36 from Public Works, Facilities, and Finance Administration Committees, a resolution to approve acceptance of FEMA and State of Wisconsin funds for FEMA Severe Winter Storm Disaster 1966 declared on April 5th, 2011. Public Works, Facilities, Elverman, yes. Grady, yes. O'Day, yes. Gale Gens, yes. Boyd Frederick, yes. Esposito, yes. Colmeyer excused. Finance Admin, Clark, yes. O'Day, yes. Jeff Gens, yes. Eckerness, yes. Rhodes, yes. Singer excused. Grady excused.
Supervisor Elverman.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I would move the resolution.
Resolution 36 moved by Elverman, seconded by Supervisor Clark. Supervisor Elverman.
I didn't say the number because I wasn't sure.
Understood.
This is some money that we applied for, some reimbursement from our 2011 winter storms. It is a section of time, not necessarily the heaviest snow day, that one big blizzard day. You do a worksheet on like a 4-day period. This was one of our 4 highest days of activity. You get a percentage back, and we were awarded $53,000 and some change. So I would say that didn't cover everything for us, but it certainly helped. But I would urge you to all approve of this. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone on the issue? One question I had, Supervisor Elverman, that was asked of me. I didn't know how to answer the question. This is the FEMA dollars we're going to put in cart paths. Is that right? Is this the one?
This is for the blizzard. And
oh, I'm sorry, the blizzard. You said that.
Yep.
I was looking at it when you were talking. It still didn't click. All right, I'll ask you that question some other time. Seeing no lights, this is a budget modification, roll call vote. Those in favor, P and plus. Those opposed, P and minus. (28-0).
Resolution 38 from the Redistricting Committee, a resolution to authorize court action relating to the redistricting process, submitted by the Redistricting Committee. Eckerness, yes. Clark, yes. O'Day, yes. Decker, yes. Michael, yes.
Vice Chairman Eckerness.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I move approval of resolution number 38.
Resolution number 38, moved by Vice Chairman Eckerness, seconded by Supervisor Clark. Vice Chairman Eckerness.
Resolution 38 deals with the approval for the Corporation Council to start action in Circuit Court to correct the mess that the city made out of a redistricting map. This resolution was amended in committee just before we started this meeting, and it should read, whereas having received the redistricting map approved by the city of Kenosha, it appears that the city, comma, has stated in the statutes, comma, has failed to make a good faith effort pursuant to sections 5.15. Parent 2, Parent D, Wisconsin statutes to accommodate the redistricting map approved by the county board. Now therefore be it resolved that the Kenosha County Board of Supervisors does authorize the Kenosha County Corporation Council to take appropriate action under section 5.18 Wisconsin statutes by filing an alternate redistricting plan with the circuit court. Upon reviewing the ward maps that were submitted to us, it was determined that there were many problems with the ward map where we do not believe they followed the law as we have all been required to in this redistricting effort. I urge approval.
All right, we have Mr. Brockmeyer with us this evening, as well as Attorney Cardamone from Corporation Counsel's office, both of whom will tell me at the next meeting that they have to be on vacation, so I'm sorry you had to wait as long as you did, but any questions to either one of those two, they can certainly answer them. Otherwise, I see no lights on the board. So, those in favor of Resolution 38 as amended by the committee, P and plus, those opposed, P and minus. Motion carries 28-0.
Communications from George E. Melcher regarding future items scheduled before the Planning, Development, and Extension Education Committee.
Refer to Planning, Development, Extension, Education.
Claim Jennifer Ann Crowley, cracked windshield.
Refer to Corporation Counsel.
Approval of the July 5th, 2011 minutes by Supervisor Hallman.
Supervisor Hallman.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Motion to approve the minutes of July 5th, 2011.
Motion made by Supervisor Hallman, second by Supervisor Arrington. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Those opposed, motion carries. Motion to adjourn by Supervisor Clark, second by Supervisor Michael. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Those opposed, we're adjourned.